Ben lands on a grated catwalk with a hollow clang. The steel shivers under his sneakers. Below, molten metal slides through channels in glowing rivers, orange-white and slow as syrup. Heat ripples the air. His lungs feel coated. He wrinkles his nose. Wow. Nothing says illegal arms deal like industrial ambiance. Across the refinery floor, floodlights snap on in a stuttering cascade. Figures in armored exosuits pivot toward him. Black plating, alien glyphs crawling faintly across their surfaces like something alive. At their center sits a hovering engine core. Spherical, unstable, its shell splitting and resealing in geometric pulses. The air hums wrong around it. A tall, segmented alien turns its faceted head. Its voice grinds like stone on steel. "You're early, Tennyson." Ben squints down at it. The heat makes his eyes sting. Sweat collects along his hairline. "Yeah, I get that a lot. It's called punctuality. Try it sometime." The alien gestures to the sphere. "You misunderstand. You are early to die." Ben's fingers twitch. The Omnitrix faceplate pops up with a sharp mechanical click. The furnaces thud beneath his feet. A low seismic rhythm that vibrates through his shins. He feels it in his molars. "You know," he says lightly, scrolling through holographic silhouettes, "most villains start with, 'You're too late.' This is refreshing." A mercenary raises a pulse rifle. Blue coils crackle. Ben slams the dial. Green light explodes outward. 4 arms hits the catwalk hard enough to bow the steel downward. The grating shrieks in protest. "Okay." 4 arms rolls his shoulders, all 4 fists flexing. "Let's not drop into molten lava tonight." The mercenaries open fire. Bolts slam into his chest. Sparks fly. Heat stings. But he holds ground. He feels the impact reverberate through muscle and bone like someone punching a drum. He leaps. The landing caves in a platform. A mercenary disappears through collapsing metal into darkness below. 4 arms catches another by the helmet and swings him into a stack of industrial drums. They burst, liquid coolant splashing across heated plating with a violent hiss. The alien commander's eyes flicker. "Activate the core." The hovering sphere begins to rotate faster. The hum becomes a scream. Ben turns mid-strike. That's not good. The sphere's surface fractures open. Light leaks out. Not green, not blue. Colorless. Depthless. It feels like the air is being sucked inward. The furnace flames bend toward it. 4 arms braces against a support beam. The steel vibrates violently beneath his palms. The heat is no longer heat. It's pressure. "What is that thing?" he roars over the noise. The alien commander's voice cuts through the distortion. "A dimensional transit engine. It will relocate our Enterprise beyond interference." Ben's stomach drops. "You're tearing space open in a steel refinery? That's your plan?" The catwalk tears loose behind him, sucked upward in spiraling shards. Molten metal begins lifting from channels in glowing strands. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flashes red. Warning. The pull intensifies. 4 arms digs fingers into steel. The metal dents around his grip. He growls. "Yeah, we're not doing that." Green flash. Diamond head. Crystal feet spike into the floor. He feels the texture of the steel through his crystalline structure. Every vibration, every fracture line. The metal tastes bitter in the air, sharper now, like blood. He thrusts both arms forward. Crystal pillars erupt upward, impaling the engine's housing. The sphere convulses. For half a second, the hum drops. Then the pillars shatter. The engine flares. Reality peels back. Ben's body lurches forward involuntarily. His core tightens. His lungs seize as if someone punched the air out of him. His internal monologue cuts sharp and fast. Okay. Think. Overloading field. Energy sink. Needs something conductive. Green. Upgrade. Liquid metal spreads across the shattered crystal and over the engine casing. Ben feels it immediately. Raw energy ripping across his synthetic pathways like grabbing a live wire with wet hands. He hisses through his teeth. Oh, that's spicy. He tries to reroute the output, but the core is misaligned. It isn't opening a doorway. It's collapsing inward. The alien commander shrieks something in its language. The refinery lights implode in sequence. Glass snapping, bulbs bursting. The furnaces below explode upward in a geyser of flame and debris. The pull becomes violent. Upgrade's form destabilizes. His body flickers. He loses his grip. The sensation is wrong. Not falling, not flying. Being erased sideways. Green flashes involuntarily. XLR-8. Wind howls past him, except there's no direction. He runs against nothing, claws scraping empty air. His lungs burn from metallic dust. Okay, he shouts into the distortion. This is officially worse than Vilgax's bad decisions. The rupture snaps. The last thing he feels is grit. Something granular slamming against his face at high speed. Then, silence. And a different wind. Dry. Thin. Not hot. Not industrial. He inhales. It doesn't smell like molten metal. It smells like dust baked under a dead sun. His heartbeat thunders in his ears. The Omnitrix flickers weakly. Ben blinks against harsh light. The sky above him isn't Bellwood's night. It's washed-out gray. He pushes himself up slowly. The ground beneath his palms is cracked asphalt. Rough. Cold. Somewhere far off, something howls. It isn't mechanical. It's alive. And hungry. He swallows. Okay. A shadow passes over him. Not from clouds. Something circling. He slowly looks up. The wind carries a distant, heavy wing beat. And the metallic taste in his mouth hasn't gone away. It's different now. Sharper. Like radiation. The Omnitrix gives a faint, uncertain pulse. Ben exhales once. Slow. Great. Behind him, something massive shifts among ruined concrete. Claws scrape stone. Closer. He doesn't turn yet. His fingers hover over the dial. Please don't be a dragon. The scraping stops. A low growl answers him. The ground trembles once, then again. And it's getting closer. Ben's sneaker scuffs a patch of asphalt that looks like it's been cooked, cooled, cooked again. The forecourt is a dead grid of cracked concrete squares. Faded white lines mark where cars used to queue. The canopy above sags at a tilt, steel ribs exposed, dangling rebar twisting in the wind like bent fingers. One pump stands upright. The others are half buried in rubble. Their hoses lie coiled like dried snakes. Ben squints toward the convenience store. The glass is gone. The frame is still there, jagged teeth around an empty mouth. A loose sign clacks against the building. Not a friendly sound. Hollow, repetitive, like something trying to get your attention without stepping into view. Ben's throat feels dry. He swallows and tastes metal that isn't from a refinery. It's sharp, bitter, wrong. His tongue sticks slightly to the roof of his mouth. He taps the Omnitrix faceplate with one finger. It doesn't beep the way it usually does when he's safe. It gives a tired little pulse, like it's holding its breath. Ben forces a grin anyway, because that's what he does when his brain starts sprinting ahead of him. Okay, he says, voice echoing off concrete. New rule. Earth is not allowed to look like this. The wind pushes grit across the ground in tiny, skittering waves. It rasps against his jeans. He hears it drag along metal. His eyes track movement without movement. A shift in shadows under the canopy. A dark notch where the rubble piles up near the side wall. Ben takes one slow step forward, then another, like his feet are negotiating with the ground. Hello, he calls. I'm lost, mildly irradiated, and I'm pretty sure my watch is having a nervous breakdown. If this is some kind of welcome party, I'd like to speak to the manager." Nothing answers. Then the concrete under his left foot gives a faint click. Not a button. A pebble snapping. A pressure change. His stomach tightens hard enough to hurt. Ben freezes mid-breath. The air changes. Not temperature. Density. Like something big just took the space and didn't ask permission. A low growl rolls out from behind the rubble. Close. Ben's eyes flick to the dial. His thumb hovers above it. "Please," he mutters, barely moving his lips, "be a dog." Something crashes through the rubble like it's paper. A head rises first. Horned, ridged, jaw wide enough to swallow his torso. Yellowed teeth. Thick saliva stretching in strings between gums. Then shoulders. Then the rest of it. The Deathclaw steps into full view. Its claws flex once, long, curved, stained with dried something. It doesn't roar right away. It stares, like it's deciding where to start. Ben's breath catches. His heart kicks hard against his ribs. His brain does the math and hates the answer. He points at it anyway, because sarcasm is cheaper than fear. "Okay, so you're definitely not a dog." The Deathclaw's nostrils flare. It takes one step forward. Concrete cracks under its weight. Ben snaps his wrist down. Green light blooms. 4 arms drops into place with a heavy impact that rattles the pump to his right. His feet dig in, toes gripping through the sole like he can feel the ground's weaknesses. He raises all 4 hands, palms open. "All right," 4 arms says loud, like volume can change fate. "Hey, big guy, let's talk about personal space." The Deathclaw moves. Not a charge. A burst. It closes the distance with a whip-fast lunge that makes 4 arms' eyes widen a fraction too late. Claws slash. 4 arms twists, but not enough. Pain flares across his side. Hot, sharp, immediate. The cut bites deep into red skin. He feels warmth spill and stick to his body. His first breath after that is ragged. His second is angry. "Okay," he growls, voice dropping. "We're not friends." He grabs for the Deathclaw's wrist with one hand. It yanks back with strength that's not normal. 4 arms shoulder tugs. Muscle strains. Tendons scream. The Deathclaw rams its forehead into his chest. The impact drives air out of him with a grunt. He stumbles back, boots grinding on concrete. Behind him, one rusted pump wobbles. 4 arms throws an elbow hard into the creature's neck. The Deathclaw barely flinches. Its tail whips and slams into 4 arms' knee. Pain spikes. His leg buckles. 4 arms catches himself with 2 hands on the ground, palms scraping grit, then surges upward with a roar and swings with all 4 fists. 2 connect. 2 miss. The ones that connect land like sledgehammers. The Deathclaw's head snaps sideways, saliva spraying. Its feet skid, claws carving lines into concrete. For half a second, Ben thinks, "Okay, this is manageable." The Deathclaw answers by smiling, if you can call it that, lips pulling back, teeth fully exposed. Then it springs again. It climbs 4 arms like he's a wall. Claws hook into his shoulders. Its weight slams into him and drives him down. 4 arms hits the ground on his back with a breath-stealing crash. The world shakes. Dust puffs around his head. The Deathclaw's face is inches from his. Hot breath. Rot. Old meat. Ben's stomach lurches. 4 arms' upper hands shove at its chest. The creature's claws press down harder. Concrete bites into 4 arms' spine through his skin. His vision narrows. His muscles burn. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest flashes red. Ben's teeth grit so hard he tastes iron. "Not today," he spits. Green flash. Diamond Head erupts into being. The Deathclaw's claws screech across crystal. That sound is violent. Broken glass dragged across a stone floor. It vibrates through Diamond Head's body and into his skull. Sparks spit off his chest, where the claws skid without finding purchase. The Deathclaw recoils, startled by the sudden change in texture. Its eyes blink fast, like it's trying to understand why its meal turned into a wall. Diamond Head shoves it off and rises, crystalline joints clicking. He plants his feet. The ground feels steadier now, like he's anchoring into it. He spreads his hands. Crystal spikes punch up from the concrete in a half-ring around the Deathclaw, forcing it back a step. Ben points at it, chin lifted. "Yeah," Diamond Head says. "Go ahead. Keep trying. This is going great for you." The Deathclaw hisses, then swipes again. Claws scrape crystal, that grinding, crunching drag, and the sound is so sharp Ben feels it in his teeth. Diamond Head's instinct is to impale it. He starts to. His palm angles down. A spike begins to form. Then he sees the rusted pump behind the Deathclaw, the broken canopy above, the old fuel stains soaked into concrete. Ben's chest tightens. If he turns the forecourt into a pincushion and hits buried lines. Boom. Fire. Shrapnel. Maybe him. Definitely anyone nearby. Ben yanks his hand back mid-motion. "Ugh," he groans. "Why does everything I fight stand next to something explosive?" The Deathclaw takes advantage of the hesitation. It slams both hands down on Diamond Head's shoulders and shoves. Diamond Head's heels skid. Crystal grinds on concrete. The creature's strength is obscene. It tries to bite. Diamond Head turns his head aside. Teeth crash into his cheek with a loud crack. The bite doesn't break through, but the impact rattles him. He feels it in his neck like a car crash. He plants a hand and forms a flat crystal plate between its jaws, forcing the mouth open. The Deathclaw snarls and shakes, trying to tear it away. Diamond Head's arm vibrates with strain. Ben's breathing turns quick. He can't get leverage here. He needs space. He needs speed. Green flash. XLR-8. The world stretches. Sound thins out. The clacking sign becomes a slow, lazy swing. XLR-8 darts sideways, claws skittering across the concrete in tiny, rapid taps. The Deathclaw swings where he was. Miss. XLR-8 circles it, dust lifting into a spiral around their feet. "Okay," XLR-8 says fast, words tumbling. "Good news, big guy. You're strong. Bad news." He snaps forward and strikes the back of the knee joint. "You're not fast." The Deathclaw's leg buckles slightly. It growls and pivots, tail whipping. XLR-8 ducks under it by inches. The tail passes overhead like a battering ram. He feels the air move. He strikes again. Another tendon hit, another joint, careful angles, avoiding the pump. The Deathclaw adapts. It stops trying to follow him with its head. It listens. Its claws scrape the concrete deliberately, feeling vibration. It lashes out not at where XLR-8 is, but where XLR-8 will be. The claw catches him across the ribs. Pain flares. Hot line of impact. XLR-8 stumbles, wheels skidding. His breath comes out as a squeak. Okay, still fast, he mutters, voice too bright, too forced. The Deathclaw charges. Straight. It's going to slam him into the pumps. Ben's eyes flick to the Omnitrix. No time. No finesse. He slams down. Green flash. Cannon bolt. A heavy armored sphere drops with a thud that dents the concrete. The Deathclaw hits him like a truck. Cannon bolt rolls. The impact becomes momentum. He spins faster. Armor plates humming as air tears around him. He ricochets off a broken curb, then a chunk of rubble, then the side of the convenience store wall, each hit adding speed, each bounce a calculated angle. The Deathclaw swipes, but its claws catch only the edge of the spinning shell. Cannon bolt slams into its torso. Hard. The creature lifts off its feet. Cannon bolt keeps rolling, drives it backward, away from the pumps, away from the canopy. He rams it into a stack of collapsed concrete slabs. The slabs explode outward. Dust blooms. Cannonbolt stops rolling and pops back into Ben in a green flash. Ben stands with knees bent, fists raised, chest heaving. The Deathclaw drags itself out of the rubble. Not fast now, but not down. Its chest rises in thick breaths. Its claws flex again, slower this time. Ben's skin prickles. His lungs burn. His mouth tastes like metal and dust and blood. He didn't mean to spill. He points at it, because of course he does. "Okay," he says, voice hoarse. "Respect. You're the first thing I've fought on Earth today that feels like it actually wants to win." The Deathclaw lowers its head. Ben's thumb slides over the dial again. His heartbeat steadies, just a little, because this part is familiar. Not the monster. The moment where he decides how far to go. He glances once at the gas station, the broken lines, the rusted pumps, the places where people used to live normal lives. Then back at the Deathclaw. "No killing," he mutters. "Not unless you make it unavoidable." The Deathclaw answers by lunging again. Ben's thumb comes down. Green light floods the forecourt. And from the far end of the road, over the sound of claws and cracking concrete, a gunshot rings out. Sharp. Human. Close. Ben's eyes flick toward it as the transformation starts. Someone's here. The gunshot snaps the air like a whip. Ben's half-formed green glow collapses into human skin mid-step, his body finishing the shift with a heavy exhale. His chest tightens, then loosens. He can still feel the phantom weight of Cannonbolt's armor, like a pressure that takes a second to fade. The Deathclaw turns its head toward the sound. That's the mistake. Ben's hand slaps the Omnitrix dial out of instinct. Green light punches outward. Diamond Head locks in, crystal joints clicking, forearms already raising. From behind a sandbag wall across the road, a voice barks, "Contact! Big one!" Another rifle cracks. Ben smells it immediately, gunpowder, sharp and oily, mixing with scorched sand and old gasoline baked into the concrete. The smell sticks to the back of his throat. The Deathclaw takes the bullet in the shoulder, like it's an insect bite. It roars, pivots toward the barricade, and starts moving. Ben's jaw sets. "Oh no," Diamond Head mutters. "You are not turning this into a snack break." He spreads his hands, palms down. Crystal rises from the ground in a fast, jagged ridge. Not spikes, not a pincushion, more like a chest-high wall that slams into place between the Deathclaw and the road. The creature hits it with a meaty thud, claws scraping for purchase, trying to climb. The scraping sound grinds like broken glass under a boot. Ben winces at the noise, then forces his hands outward again. The crystal wall angles backward like a ramp, tilting the Deathclaw off balance. Its weight shifts wrong. One foot slips. It drops hard, claws carving pale lines in the concrete as it tries to catch itself. "Yeah," Ben says through Diamond Head's resonant voice. "Gravity's undefeated." The Deathclaw lunges again, lower now, aiming at Ben's legs. Ben forms a flat crystal plate under his feet, like a skateboard, and slides sideways, just enough to keep the creature's jaws from closing around his shin. The bite snaps on crystal instead, teeth clacking like someone slamming metal tools together. He keeps moving, steering the fight away from the pumps, away from anything that looks like it might explode if it gets a bad day. Behind him, the Minutemen rifles keep firing. Quick, panicked cadence. "Stop shooting it," Ben shouts without looking back. "You're just making it matter." "We're trying not to die," the same voice yells back. Ben plants both hands on the ground. A crystal beam erupts, not sharp, thick, like a battering ram made of glassy stone. It hits the Deathclaw square in the chest and drives it backward, away from the road, into open rubble. The creature staggers. Ben doesn't wait. He runs up the crystal beam, launches himself, and slams both crystal fists down on the Deathclaw's shoulder ridge. The impact cracks something. The Deathclaw's legs buckle. It still tries to swing. Ben ducks the claws, grabs one wrist, and pivots, using the creature's momentum to throw it sideways into a collapsed concrete slab. The slab breaks with a dry snap. The Deathclaw hits the ground and doesn't pop back up this time. Its chest rises once, twice, then the breath stops coming. Ben stands over it, crystal shoulders rising and falling, listening for movement that doesn't come. His pulse is loud in his ears. His hands are steady, but his stomach still feels like it's sloshing around. He turns toward the barricade. 4 people are visible behind it. Dusty, exhausted, eyes too wide. One in a battered colonial-style coat with a laser musket held like it's both comfort and weapon. A woman in ragged clothes gripping a pistol with white knuckles. A guy with a tool belt and a pipe rifle. Another woman older, wrapped in layers, staring too hard like she's trying to see through Ben's skin. The man in the coat steps forward. His voice is firm, but it wobbles at the edges. "I'm Preston Garvey, Commonwealth Minutemen." He lifts his musket slightly. "And you're going to tell me what you are?" Ben's crystal mouth pulls into something like a grin. "Hi, Preston Garvey, Commonwealth Minutemen. I'm Ben." He gestures at the dead Deathclaw. "And I'm the guy who just saved your afternoon from becoming shorter." The woman with the pistol doesn't lower it. "That thing was gonna tear us apart." "Yeah," Ben says, then points to himself. "And I'm the reason it didn't. So maybe, just maybe, we don't lead with the whole shoot first vibe." The tool belt guy mutters, eyes locked on the crystal. "That ain't normal." Preston's gaze flicks to Ben's wrist, where the Omnitrix faceplate settles back down with a faint mechanical click. "That device," Preston says carefully. "You did that with a device." Ben glances at it like it might argue. "Yup." The older woman's voice is thin and certain. "I've seen it." Her eyes are watery, but sharp. "The green light. The man from nowhere." Ben's crystal brow ridges lift. "Okay, that's creepy." Preston's grip tightens on his musket. "We've got civilians in the museum. Raiders pinned us down for days. Then you drop out of the sky and kill a Deathclaw like it's a Tuesday." Ben spreads his hands, palms out. Crystal glints in the harsh sunlight. "First," he counts on his fingers, "it is definitely not Tuesday for me. Second, I didn't kill it because it was fun. I killed it because it was going to eat you. Third," he tilts his head toward the museum. "Raiders?" The woman with the pistol spits to the side. "They've got the street. They've got rooftops. They shoot anything that moves." Ben's jaw tightens. His chest shifts with a familiar pull. Responsibility landing like weight. He looks down at the Deathclaw once more, then back to Preston's tired eyes. Ben taps the Omnitrix. Green flickers faintly beneath the faceplate. "Okay," he says, voice calmer. "Take me to your civilians." Preston hesitates, then lowers his musket just an inch. "That's a hell of a risk." Ben's grin returns, quick and cocky. "Get used to it." The fire crackles inside the bin, small and stubborn. Orange light skates across broken glass and blackened brick. Ben sits on an overturned milk crate, elbows on knees, hands open toward the heat. It barely makes a dent in the cold that crawls up from the cracked pavement. The wind keeps finding ways to whistle through the hollow buildings. It makes the street sound like it's breathing. Preston sits across from him on a chunk of concrete, laser musket laid across his lap. His posture says resting, but his eyes say ready. The tool belt guy, Sturgis, leans on a pipe, turning it in his hands like he's thinking of 10 ways to use it as a weapon. The woman with the pistol, Marcy Long, stands, pacing in tight little loops, eyes flicking between Ben and the dark street. The younger man, Jun Long, sits hunched, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles are pale. The older woman, Mama Murphy, stares into the flames like the fire owes her answers. Ben takes a slow breath. The air tastes like dust and rust. "So," Ben says, voice light because silence feels too heavy. "Do you guys have a welcome pamphlet? Maybe a map? A congrats you survived sticker?" Marcy's laugh is sharp and humorless. "You're joking." "That is kind of my default setting," Ben says, then nods toward the empty street. "But seriously, where am I?" Preston's jaw works once. He glances up at the broken skyline beyond the street. Dark shapes, jagged edges. "Commonwealth," he says, "used to be Massachusetts. Boston's out there. Ruins, raiders, mutants. Worse." Ben's fingers flex. The Omnitrix sits cold against his wrist, like it's pretending it had nothing to do with this. "And the whole everything being dead?" Ben asks, keeping his tone casual, like he isn't bracing for the answer. Sturgis exhales through his nose. "You really don't know." Ben shakes his head. "Nope. Last thing I remember, I was stopping an alien tech deal at a refinery. Then," he rotates his hand, "space did a weird thing, and now I'm here." Preston watches him closely. "You're not from around here." Ben points at the burnt diner sign with half its letters missing. "What gave it away? My glowing watch? My lack of enthusiasm for the apocalypse aesthetic?" June's voice is quiet. "The bombs did this." Ben blinks. The wind slips through a broken window nearby, making a lonely moan. "The bombs," Ben repeats, slower. Preston nods once. 200 years ago. World ended. People crawled out of shelters, built what they could. Then everything started killing them again. Ben's stomach tightens. He swallows, throat dry. "No aliens?" he asks, because he wants it to be aliens. Aliens at least make sense in his life. Sturgis gives him a tired look. "Just people." Ben's gaze drops to the fire. The flames pop, sending a tiny spray of sparks upward. He feels something prickly behind his eyes and hates it. "So," he says, trying to push the feeling down with humor, "humanity speed-ran self-destruction. Cool. Love that for us." Marcy stops pacing. "Don't say it like it's a joke." Ben looks up at her. His voice stays even, but his jaw is tight. "I'm not joking. I'm trying not to freak out." Preston shifts, softer. "You fought that Deathclaw like you fought worse." Ben huffs a short laugh. "Yeah, I have." Mama Murphy finally speaks, voice thin like paper. "The green light ain't normal." She points a crooked finger at his wrist. "That thing on you. It's hungry." Ben's shoulders tense. "It's not hungry. It's..." He pauses, then sighs. "It's complicated." Preston leans forward, firelight flickering across his cheekbones. "Are you here to help? Or are you another problem we gotta survive?" Ben stares at the flames. He hears the crackle, feels the heat on his palms, listens to the wind in empty buildings. Home is somewhere else. But these people are here. Tired. Cornered. Still breathing. Ben looks up. "I didn't ask to be here," he says. "But I'm here. And if there are raiders in that museum, and civilians behind them, then yeah, I'm helping." Marcy's eyes narrow. "Why?" Ben's mouth quirks. "Because I'm annoyingly heroic." Preston holds his gaze for a long beat, then nods once. "Then you're with the Minutemen tonight." Ben's shoulders loosen a fraction. The fire pops again. He glances at his Omnitrix. The faceplate is still. For now. Ben exhales and mutters, almost to himself, "Okay, Bellwood, you're going to owe me for this one." The first sign something is wrong is the sound. Not footsteps, not voices. A faint metallic whir that ramps up like an angry motor. Ben's head turns before his brain finishes the thought. The street is a canyon of concrete and dead cars. Rusted frames piled at angles. A collapsed overpass hangs above like a broken jaw. Wind funnels through the gap between buildings, carrying dust that sticks to Ben's lips. Preston holds up a fist. Stop. But it's already too late. A minigun spins up across the intersection. The echo of it bounces off concrete in rapid, ugly beats, multiplying into a wall of sound that feels like it's punching Ben's chest. Rounds chew through a wrecked sedan in front of them. Metal screams. Glass bursts. Sparks explode in sharp bursts that sting the eyes. Marcy yelps and drops behind the nearest car. Jun follows, scrambling awkwardly. Preston shouts, "Down!" Ben hits the pavement on instinct, palms scraping grit. His heart hammers. The noise is so loud it flattens everything else. Across the street, a hulking figure steps out from behind a bus. Green skin. Heavy armor plates bolted together. A jaw that looks like it forgot how to be human. A super mutant grins around rotten teeth, minigun braced like it weighs nothing. Another super mutant appears on a second-story balcony with a pipe rifle, laughing. "Meat!" it bellows. Ben's mouth goes dry. "Oh good," he mutters. "It's the welcoming committee." A round punches into the concrete inches from his face. Dust blasts into his eyes. He blinks fast, grit scratching his lids. Preston fires his laser musket. The beam hits a car door near the minigun mutant and splashes harmlessly. The mutant doesn't even flinch. Sturgis yells, "That thing's gonna rip us apart!" Ben's fingers close around the Omnitrix dial. He feels the cold metal under his thumb. His breathing turns shallow. He peeks around the car. The minigun is sweeping side to side, stitching the street. Every burst is louder because the buildings trap it and throw it back. The sound gets under his skin. Ben's brain snaps into that familiar pattern. Threat, civilians, angles, time. "Okay," he says quietly. "No pressure." He slams the dial. Green light. XLR8. The world stretches. Minigun rounds become visible lines of death in slow motion. He can hear each one's air tear, like a hiss. XLR8 darts forward, claws tapping rapid on concrete, zigzagging between bullet paths. He feels wind peel across his face as he accelerates. He skims past Marcy's cover and yanks her by the collar, gentle but fast, dragging her behind a thicker concrete pillar before the next sweep of rounds hits the car she was hiding behind. "Hey!" Marcy snaps, then sees the car door disintegrate. Her face goes tight. "Fine." XLR8's head flicks toward June. He's frozen, eyes wide, hands over his head. XLR8 grabs him by the jacket and moves him too, depositing him behind the same pillar with Marcy. "Breathe," XLR8 says fast. "You can panic later." June's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. XLR8's tail whips as he turns again. The minigun sweep catches his afterimage. He darts forward, then up, running 3 steps onto a leaning car hood and springing toward a streetlight pole. His claws catch metal. He swings himself around it like a gymnast. The super mutant tracks him and laughs. "Fast meat." XLR8 blurs behind cover again, mind racing. He can't just punch the minigun mutant in the face, not with that many bullets flying. The civilians are right behind him. One wrong move and someone's head is gone. He needs to stop the gun. Not the mutant. The gun. XLR8 skids, slams the Omnitrix again. Green flash. Upgrade. Liquid metal spreads across the wrecked car he's behind. Ben feels the texture of rust, pitted and flaky, under his consciousness like he's touching it with 1,000 fingertips. He sees wiring. Old, half dead. He forces power through it anyway. "Come on," Ben mutters. "Please let the apocalypse still have electricity." The car's battery gives a weak whine. Upgrade peels off the car like ink and flows across the street, low to the ground, using debris as cover. Bullets hammer the concrete above him, sending chips raining down. He reaches the minigun's ammo feed first, liquid metal fingers slipping onto the belt. The super mutant doesn't notice until the belt stiffens. Upgrade locks the feed. The minigun spins, then chokes. The sound stutters, coughs, and dies. The sudden quiet is so abrupt, Ben's ears ring. The super mutant looks down at the weapon like it betrayed him. "Gun! Broke?" it snarls. Upgrade rises, reforming into Ben in a green flash behind the mutant's line of fire. His lungs pull in a sharp breath. His heart is still racing. He points at the mutant. "Yeah," Ben says. "Try turning it off and on again." The super mutant roars and swings the minigun like a club. Ben slaps the dial again. Green. 4 arms lands in a heavy crouch, all 4 hands up. The minigun club hits his forearm. Pain spikes, but he holds. The impact rattles his bones. 4 arms grins through it. "Okay," he growls. "Now we're talking my language." He grabs the minigun with 2 hands and wrenches. Metal squeals. The super mutant fights back, feet digging into the street. 4 arms uses his other 2 fists to hammer the mutant's ribs, controlled, measured, not aiming to pulp, aiming to drop. The mutant's knees buckle. It collapses, hard. A second super mutant yells from above and fires down. Preston's laser musket beam cracks up at it, forcing it to duck. 4 arms looks up, squints, then calls over his shoulder. "Preston, if your welcome party has more guests, now would be a great time to mention it." Preston's voice is tight. "There's always more." Ben's grin turns sharp. "Cool." 4 arms plants his feet. The concrete trembles under him. He's ready for the next wave. The air starts vibrating before Ben sees anything. A low whoop 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 rolls through the street canyon, building fast, pushing dust off ledges and sending loose paper skittering like startled animals. Broken windows begin to chatter in their frames. A long crack snakes across a pane and finally gives up. Glass falls in tinkling sheets. Ben flinches and looks up. "Please tell me that's not another mutant," he mutters. Preston's head snaps toward the sound. His shoulders stiffen like he recognizes a predator. "That's not a mutant," Preston says. "That's worse." The vertibird swings into view between 2 skeletal towers, nose dipping, rotors beating the air so hard the rooftop feels like it's breathing. It hovers closer, and the downdraft hits them full in the face. Grit, plaster dust, a peppering of tiny pebbles bouncing off Ben's jacket. Marcy yelps and ducks, hair whipping. Jun grabs the edge of a stairwell doorframe like he might be pulled off the roof. Ben squints into the blast of air. His eyes water. He tastes dust and something oily, like old fuel. The vertibird's side door slides open. Armored figures stand inside, silhouettes framed by the dull sky. A rope drops. The first one descends fast, boots slamming onto the rooftop with a heavy metallic thud. Power armor. Matte, scarred, painted in hard angles. The weight of it isn't subtle. Every step makes the roof complain. 2 more follow. Then a 4th. This one not in full armor, but in heavy combat gear. A laser rifle held steady. The man's stance is precise, practiced. His gaze sweeps the roof and then locks on Ben's left wrist. He lifts his weapon slightly, more warning than threat, but only barely. "I'm Lancer Captain Kells," he calls over the rotor thunder, voice clipped. "You will stand down and comply." Ben cups a hand near his ear, pretending the rotors are the reason he looks annoyed. Sorry, could you repeat that? A helicopter just landed on my day. Preston steps forward, musket half raised. This is Minutemen business. The man in combat gear doesn't even glance at Preston. His attention stays on Ben, like the rest of the roof doesn't exist. Another armored figure steps forward, bulkier, more centered. The helmet is off, revealing a stern face and hard eyes. "Paladin dance," he says, voice loud enough to cut through the rotor wash. "Identify yourself. Now." Ben gestures at himself with both hands like he's presenting the obvious. "Ben, hi. I'm kind of in the middle of a situation, so if you could—" Dance's eyes flick to the Omnitrix again. "That device on your arm, remove it and place it on the ground." Ben blinks. Then he laughs once, short and disbelieving. "Oh, you're one of those guys." Dance's jaw tightens. This is not a negotiation. Ben's fingers drift toward the Omnitrix dial, not pressing yet, just ready. His pulse shifts up a gear. He keeps his voice casual on purpose. "Okay, here's the thing. I'm new here, like really new. And my current understanding of your world is giant lizards eat people, green muscle dudes shoot miniguns, and now a military cosplay squad just dropped onto a roof and told me to disarm." The rotor wash snaps a torn poster into Ben's face. It slaps his cheek and flutters away. Ben doesn't look away from Dance. "So I'm going to say no," Ben adds, "and we can all pretend this was just a misunderstanding." Dance steps closer. The servos in his armor whine. The roof trembles under his weight. "Technology like that caused the end of the old world," Dance says. "You don't understand what you're holding." Ben's mouth twists. "I understand exactly what I'm holding." Kells lifts a hand, and two more Brotherhood soldiers step outward, forming a loose arc. Their rifles angle toward Ben, not Preston, not Marcy, not June. Only Ben. Preston's voice rises, sharp. "He just saved us. He's not your enemy." Dance's helmet light clicks on, cold white. It paints Ben's face in hard edges. "Everyone thinks that," Dance says, "until they're wrong." Ben exhales through his nose. His skin prickles. The sound of rotor blades keeps shaking the broken windows around them. An endless rattling chorus, like the city itself, is warning him. Ben raises his hands, palms out. Slow. All right. Everybody relax." He glances at Preston. This is fine. Then he looks at Dance again, and smiles with just enough teeth to be annoying. "Tell you what, you take one step closer, and I'm going to turn into something that makes this roof problematically small." Dance doesn't stop. He moves. "That's it." Ben's thumb drops. The Omnitrix faceplate pops up with a click that somehow sounds louder than the rotor wash. Green light floods the rooftop. Dance's rifle rises instinctively. Preston stumbles back, eyes wide. The light cuts out. Ben is still Ben, still human. But his eyes have changed, focused, sharp. He didn't transform. He just let them see he could. He taps the dial once, gentle, like he's patting a dangerous animal. Dance freezes. Kells stiffens. Ben's voice stays calm. "I don't want to fight you," Ben says. "I'm doing the hero thing today. If you're also doing the hero thing, then maybe we all stop aiming laser guns at the only guy here who isn't trying to make this worse." Dance's breathing is visible in the cold air around his mouth, steady and controlled. He stares at the watch like it's a bomb. Kell's eyes narrow. "Paladin." Dance lifts one armored hand, stopping him. The rotors keep pounding. Windows keep shaking. The whole roof feels like it's on the edge of giving up. Dance speaks again, slower. "You will come with us." Ben tilts his head. "And if I don't?" Dance's voice hardens. "Then you leave us no choice." Ben's grin fades. His chest tightens with that familiar frustration. Someone deciding control matters more than people. He glances toward the roof edge. Far below, the street is a maze of wrecks and shadows. Ben looks back at Dance. "Cool," he says. "I hate choices like this." His thumb slides over the dial. "Not down yet. Just ready." Kells gives a small hand signal. 2 armored soldiers step in at the same time. Not charging, coordinated. One goes for Ben's left wrist. Ben's body reacts before his mind finishes the sentence. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." He twists away, shoulders rotating, knees bending, moving like he's done this in 100 different fights. The soldier's metal fingers brush Ben's sleeve. Ben's thumb slams down. Green light erupts. 4 arms fills the space like a dropped truck. The roof groans. Dust leaps from cracks. The water tower creaks. 4 arms looks down at the armored soldier whose hands are still reaching for where Ben's wrist used to be. "Oh," 4 arms rumbles, voice deep and delighted. "You want a handshake?" The soldier stumbles back instinctively. Power armor servos whine as he tries to adjust for the sudden size difference. Dance snaps his rifle up. "Stand down!" 4 arms spreads his hands, palms open, huge. He leans forward slightly, so Dance can hear him over the rotors. "I'm standing," 4 arms says. "This is as down as I get." Dance fires. A laser beam slams into 4 arms' shoulder. The heat bites, sharp and quick. It doesn't punch through, but it stings. 4 arms' eyes narrow. "Okay," he says, tone shifting. "We're doing this." He moves, fast for his size, grabbing the rifle barrel with one hand and yanking it sideways so the next shot scorches empty air. Another hand clamps around Dance's armored forearm. 4 arms doesn't crush. He could. He doesn't. He pushes Dance backward instead, forcing distance. "Stop aiming at people," 4 arms growls. Dance's boots skid. His servos howl under strain. He plants and shoves back, strength amplified by power armor. 4 arms grins despite the burn in his shoulder. "Oh, you're strong. Respect." Kells shouts something into a radio, words lost under rotor thunder. One Brotherhood soldier swings a baton, electric crackle. 4 arms catches it with a bare hand. Electricity bites his palm. Pain jumps up his arm like a snapping wire. He hisses. "Rude." He tears the baton away and flings it off the roof. It clatters and disappears into the street far below. A second soldier tries to wrap something around 4 arms' legs. A cable, maybe a restraint line. 4 arms steps sideways, but the cable catches his ankle. The soldier yanks. 4 arms' footing shifts. The roof edge is closer than it should be. The water tower groans again, metal stressed by vibration and weight. Ben feels the danger like a cold pressure behind his ribs. If he falls, the rooftop collapses, the tower drops. Preston's people get crushed. Brotherhood gets crushed, and the street becomes a kill zone. Ben's jaw tightens. "No," he mutters, "not like this." The Omnitrix pulses. Warning. Urgent. It wants to pick something. Ben forces the selection. Green flash. Diamond head. The cable scrapes crystal and fails to bite. The sound is a harsh grind that makes Ben's teeth ache. Diamond head plants his feet and drives his hands into the rooftop. Crystal grows. Not spikes, not weapons, supports. Thick columns that brace the weakened roof, spreading out under the water tower. The tower's lean stops, worsening. Dance sees it. His eyes flick to the crystal supports, then back to Diamond Head. "You're reinforcing the structure," Dance says, like he can't decide whether that makes Ben more dangerous or less. Ben points at him. "Yes," Diamond Head says, "because I'm trying not to kill everyone while your guys play confiscate the shiny thing." Dance takes one step forward anyway. Kells raises his rifle again. Preston shouts from behind cover near the stairwell door. "Stop! You're going to start a war on a roof." Marcy screams at nobody in particular. "I knew it! I knew this would happen!" Ben's breathing becomes loud inside his own head. He can feel his heart punching. He can feel the rooftop's vibration. He can feel the line he refuses to cross, hurting people who think they're doing the right thing. Diamondhead's shoulders rise with a slow breath. "Okay," Ben says quietly. "Boundary time." The Omnitrix dial turns under his thumb with a little mechanical resistance, like it's reluctant. He selects. He slams. Green light blasts outward, bright enough to wash the roof in neon. Heat hits instantly, not from fire, from something deeper. A clean, white-hot pressure that makes the air look wrong. Atomix stands where Ben was. The world seems to take a half-step back. Heat shimmer ripples around Atomix's hands, distorting the edge of Dance's armor, bending the lines of the water tower, making the rotor's motion look like it's wobbling. Every Brotherhood soldier freezes. Even the vertibird's crew in the doorway goes still, like their muscles forgot how to move. Atomix lifts one hand, palm outward. A small sphere of contained energy forms, tight, controlled, humming low. Not growing, not flaring, just there. A warning that doesn't need to be loud. Ben's voice comes out with a hard calm. "Stop." Dance's throat works once. He swallows. Kell's eyes are wide now, trying to decide whether fear is allowed. Atomix looks at them all, one by one. "I'm not here to end your world," Ben says. "Your world already did that. I'm here to keep people from dying in it." The energy sphere in his palm hums, steady, patient. "I do not want to hurt you," Ben continues, each word careful. "But I will not let you take the Omnitrix." He lowers his hand slightly, letting the heat shimmer lick across the rooftop. The broken windows around them rattle harder. Tiny shards tremble at the edges, like the glass remembers what heat does. Dance takes a step back. Just one. Then another. Kells lifts a hand toward his radio with shaking fingers. "Vertibird, pull back." Atomix watches, breathing slow, keeping the sphere contained. His forearms feel heavy with control, like holding a weight that wants to fall. The vertibird climbs a few feet. Rotor wash eases slightly. Dust settles into cracks again. Dance's voice is quieter now. "This isn't over." Ben's mouth twitches. "Yeah," Ben says. "That's usually how my week goes." Atomix lets the sphere fade. The heat shimmer decreases, but the air still looks like it's remembering. Ben transforms back to human in a quick green flash and exhales hard, like he's been holding his breath the entire time. He turns toward Preston. Preston is staring at him, like he just watched someone hold the sun in their hand. Ben lifts both shoulders in a small shrug. "What?" Ben says. "I did the polite version." Cold hits like water. Not just temperature, sterility. The air tastes filtered, stripped of everything that makes breathing feel real. It dries the back of the throat, makes every inhale feel too clean. In the corridor, footsteps are muted. Even sound seems managed. Behind a glass wall, a scanning chamber hums. White light pulses in measured intervals. A ring-shaped device spins slowly, precision without emotion. Terminals line the corridor. Their screens flicker with lines of data. Spikes, waveforms, DNA helixes that twist into shapes no human lab should recognize. A synth stands near the door, motionless. Its eyes don't dart. Its breathing doesn't change. At the center of the corridor, Father stands with hands clasped behind his back. Posture calm, like the world is something that can be solved with enough patience. A scientist, Madison Lee, leans over a terminal, her face lit by pale screen glow. Her jaw is set, but her eyes keep flicking, fast, like the numbers are too strange to trust. A low generator hum vibrates through the floor, so steady it becomes a second heartbeat. Madison Lee speaks first, voice clipped. The surface anomaly repeated, 6 distinct biological signatures in less than 2 minutes. Father doesn't look at her immediately. His gaze stays on the waveform display, a rising and falling pattern that looks like a heartbeat trying to mimic lightning. "And the energy source?" he asks. "Localized," she says, "on the subject's wrist. The emissions align with none of our known tech. Not teleportation, not fusion, not—" She pauses, then exhales sharply. "Not anything." Father's lips tighten, almost amused. "That's a rare phrase down here." A second scientist clears his throat, shifting uncomfortably. "It's altering genetic expression instantaneously. Complete rewriting of physiological structure, multiple organ systems, multiple morphologies." He swallows. "It shouldn't be possible." Madison Lee taps a key. The terminal projects a 3-dimensional model of Ben's transformations based on sensor capture. A hulking 4-armed form, a crystalline silhouette, a sleek raptor-like shape, a living metal outline, then something heavier, brighter, that makes the screen's brightness spike like it's nervous. The air hums. The generators don't change tone, but the room feels tighter. Father finally turns his head slightly toward Madison Lee. "Do you see what this means?" Father asks softly. Madison Lee's voice goes careful. "It means someone is walking the surface with a technology that makes our synth program look like a child's toy." Father's expression doesn't shift much, but there's a focus in his eyes now. Hunger, but not the loud kind. "Or," Father says, "it means the surface has produced something we did not anticipate." Madison Lee's fingers hover over the terminal, then stop. "He's a person." Father's gaze returns to the model. "So are synths." The surface can't agree on that either. A synth guard turns its head at a precise angle, as if responding to a silent command. Father steps closer to the glass wall. His reflection overlays the scanning chamber beyond, making it look like 2 worlds are occupying the same space. "Where is he now?" Father asks. A technician answers from another station. "Northwest of downtown, near Concord, then moved toward the city. There was a Brotherhood vertibird in the area shortly after." Father's eyes narrow a fraction. "The Brotherhood already knows." Madison Lee's mouth tightens. "If they get him, they won't understand what they're looking at," Father says. "They'll try to take it, break it, or bury it." He pauses, then adds, quieter, "We will understand." Madison Lee turns to face him fully. "And what does understand mean in this case?" Father looks at her, calm as ever. "Retrieve the subject." Madison Lee's voice sharpens. "Kidnap." Father doesn't blink. "Secure." Madison Lee's hands curl into fists at her sides. "He's not equipment." Father's gaze flicks back to the wrist emission readout, steady pulses like a heartbeat made of green light. "If he can rewrite his biology that quickly," Father says, "he can survive on the surface in ways we cannot. He can become radiation resistant, impact resistant. He can become—" "Whatever he needs," Madison Lee finishes, bitter. Father nods once, like she proved his point. "Exactly." He turns slightly, speaking toward the corridor. "Deploy a courser." A synth steps forward from the shadows, movement silent, controlled. Its face is human, but the stillness gives it away. Father's eyes meet the courser's. "Do not damage the device," Father says, "and do not kill the subject unless absolutely necessary." Madison Lee's voice cuts in, incredulous. "You're giving it rules like that makes it moral." Father's tone stays smooth. "It makes it effective." Madison Lee looks away, jaw clenched. The cold, sterile air feels harsher now, like it's pressing against her skin. Father continues, "Bring him here. I want to speak with him." The generator hum continues, steady and indifferent. Madison Lee watches the courser leave. Her reflection in the glass looks paler than it should. She murmurs, almost to herself, "If he's a hero." Father hears her anyway. "If he's a hero," Father replies softly, "then he'll come, one way or another." The corridor lights remain perfect. The air remains cold. And far above them, on the ruined surface, a boy with a green watch is about to learn what understanding means down here. The tunnel smells like old water and burned wiring. Ben's sneaker splashes through a shallow puddle on the platform edge, cold, seeping through the sole. A lantern somewhere behind him throws a shaky cone of light, and every tile it hits looks like it's trying to peel off the wall. Preston keeps his laser musket tight against his shoulder. Sturgis drags a crate lid like a shield. Marcy walks with her pistol up and her jaw locked. Jun stares at the ground like it might suddenly open. Mama Murphy mutters to herself, too soft to parse. Ben listens anyway. The tunnel is never quiet. It breathes. Drip, drip, drip. Water tapping somewhere deep and far away. A dull groan of shifting concrete. Then, zit. Static crackles in the air like someone tearing a sheet of foil. Ben's skin tightens instantly. His shoulders rise a fraction. He feels the hairs on his arms stand up. Another crackle, sharper. Gzit, pop. Light folds in on itself near the tracks. A figure appears where there wasn't space a heartbeat ago. Human shape, armor, rifle held like it's part of the body. The tunnel lantern flickers once, as if offended. The figure turns its head with precise economy and locks eyes on Ben. The courser doesn't blink. Ben's mouth opens on reflex. "Oh, cool," he says, voice echoing off tile. "A murder robot with manners." Preston's musket comes up. "What the hell?" The courser's rifle rises. Ben sees the barrel align with Preston's chest. His stomach drops hard. "Nope." Ben slaps the Omnitrix. Green light punches through the tunnel gloom. XLR-8 hits the ground running, claws skittering on tile with rapid taps. The world stretches. The lantern flame becomes a slow wobble. Water droplets hang like tiny beads. The courser fires. In XLR-8 time, the muzzle flash blooms like a lazy flower. The shot is a bright line tearing the air. XLR-8 grabs Preston by the collar and yanks him sideways so fast Preston's boots leave the ground. The shot punches a hole through a tile column instead. Chips burst. Dust blooms in slow motion. XLR-8 sets Preston down behind a support pillar. "Stay," he says fast, preferably breathing. Preston's eyes are wide. His mouth moves like he's trying to talk through shock. XLR-8 doesn't wait. The courser's head tracks him. Not frantic, calculated. Static crackles again. Kizizit. The courser vanishes. XLR-8's heart spikes. His tail whips. Uh-oh. He pivots, claws scraping. Static behind him. Kizit. Pop. The courser reappears above the platform edge, rifle already aimed. It fires. XLR-8 drops flat, the beam passing over his spine and scorching the wall. The smell of burned tile hits his nostrils. XLR-8 springs forward, closing distance in a blur. He swings a punch at the courser's jaw. The courser's head tilts just enough. The punch misses. The courser snaps its elbow into XLR-8's ribs. Pain flares sharp and bright. XLR-8's breath squeaks out. He skids backward, claws sparking on rail metal. "Okay," XLR-8 mutters, voice too fast. "You're not a regular robot." The courser steps forward with mechanical smoothness. Static builds around it like invisible insects. XLR-8 watches the air, not the body. The crackle always comes an instant before the jump. The courser raises its rifle again, aiming past XLR-8 at Marcy. Marcy is frozen mid-step, pistol shaking. XLR-8's throat tightens. He launches. The courser fires. XLR-8 hits Marcy and drags her behind a ticket booth as the beam slices the air where her head was. Marcy slams into the booth wall with a gasp. "Hey!" XLR-8 points a claw at her. "Later!" He whips back toward the platform. Static crackle. Faint. Then sharp. K-zit. The courser appears closer to June, who's staring at it like his brain refused to load a response. XLR-8 darts in, grabs June's sleeve, and yanks him backward. June stumbles, almost falls, then clutches the wall, breathing like he just ran miles. The courser doesn't chase them with panic. It turns its head slowly toward XLR-8. A voice comes out, flat, human-shaped. Subject identified. Recovery authorized. XLR-8 plants his feet, tail rigid. "Yeah? Well, recovery denied." The courser raises its rifle. XLR-8's mind races. Speed isn't enough if the other guy can rewrite distance. He needs a form that changes the rules. He slams the Omnitrix. Green flash. Big Chill unfolds into the tunnel, wings spreading wide. The air around him takes on a thin frost. The lantern flame shivers. Big Chill's breath comes out as a cold fog. The courser fires. Big Chill phases. The beam passes through his chest like it's cutting through smoke. Big Chill glides forward, silent, and reaches for the rifle. His hand passes through the weapon housing and flash freezes the internal components. Metal snaps with a brittle ping. The courser jerks the rifle back, surprised for the first time. Its eyes narrow. Static builds. It tries to jump. Big Chill presses a palm to the courser's chest. Cold surges. A thin layer of ice races across the courser's armor seams. The courser's joints stiffen. It fights, strength spiking, ice cracking at the elbows. Big Chill leans in close, voice low and annoyed. "You know what's funny?" he says. "I've fought aliens that eat planets, and you're still one of the rudest things I've met today." The courser's head twitches. Static crackles around its neck. It jumps anyway, half a jump, stuttering. It flickers 2 feet and slams into the wall like it teleported into solid air. Tiles explode. The courser drops to one knee, one hand on the ground, recalibrating. Preston fires. The laser musket beam hits the courser's shoulder and knocks it sideways. The courser whips its head toward Preston. Big Chill's wing snaps out, blocking line of sight, and he phases again, gliding between them. "Preston," Ben barks, voice echoing cold. "You keep doing that, and it's going to decide you're the problem." Preston's voice shakes. "It's trying to take you." "Yeah," Ben says. "I noticed." The courser rises again, still moving like a machine that refuses to accept failure. Its hand goes to a device on its belt. Ben's stomach tightens. "Nope." He slams the Omnitrix again. Green flash. Upgrade. Ben liquefies across the tracks, flowing into the broken signal box on the wall. He feels copper wiring, corroded but intact. He forces current through it with sheer stubbornness. The tunnel lights flicker. A warning siren wheezes alive, weak, awful, then steadies. The courser's belt device sparks as Upgrade shoves a surge through the environment. The device pops, smoke curling. The courser's head snaps down. A rare glitch of irritation crosses its face. Upgrade reforms into Ben, breathing hard, palms sweaty despite the cold. Ben points at the courser. "Tell your boss," Ben says, "that kidnapping is a bad first impression." Static crackles again. The courser jumps. This time it doesn't reappear. Only the aftersnap of distortion lingers, fading like a bruise in the air. Ben stands still for a second, listening to his heartbeat slam in his ears. Then he exhales. "Okay," he says. "So, we're officially on somebody's to-do list." Preston stares at him, throat working. "Who the hell was that?" Ben looks down the tunnel where the courser vanished, jaw tightening. "I don't know," Ben says, "but they're organized." He taps the Omnitrix faceplate lightly. "And they really want my watch." The barricade feels like splinters waiting to happen. Ben's palm presses against rough wood at the bridge entrance, planks nailed together crooked, edges chewed by weather. The grain bites his skin. He slides his hand away and checks for blood, then decides the wood wins that round and doesn't touch it again. Sanctuary looks like someone tried to rebuild a neighborhood with whatever was left in a junk drawer. Rusty cars are stacked to form walls. House frames stand half open to the sky. Sheet metal is bolted into place where windows used to be. A Minutemen flag flaps from a pole that's probably a snapped street sign. Preston steps onto the bridge and scans the tree line like he expects more trouble to crawl out. Sturgis walks past Ben, tapping boards, listening. "Wood's decent," Sturgis mutters. "Not great, but decent." Ben's eyebrows lift. "You say that like a wood inspector is going to grade you." Sturgis snorts. "Out here, everything gets graded, usually by bullets." Marcy brushes past, still tense, eyes darting. Jun follows like a shadow. Quiet. Mama Murphy settles onto a chair near the nearest house, bones creaking, hands folded in her lap, like she's waiting for the universe to confess something. Ben glances at her. She looks back with a half-smile that isn't friendly. Ben points 2 fingers at his eyes, then at her. "Okay, I don't know what your deal is, but if you start predicting my death, I'm leaving." Mama Murphy's laugh is dry. "Boy thinks he can leave." Ben pauses. His stomach tightens, slow and unpleasant. He turns toward Preston to ignore that. "So," Ben says, forcing lightness, "is this the part where you offer me a bed and a tragic backstory?" Preston leans against the barricade, musket hanging by his side. His shoulders sag for the first time since Ben met him. "The Minutemen used to protect people," Preston says. "Settlements, roads, anyone who needed help." Ben nods once. Simple. "Sounds like my kind of job." Preston's eyes harden. Then it fell apart. People stopped believing. Raiders got stronger. Everyone started looking out for themselves. Ben watches a settler walk by carrying a bucket, moving fast like the world might steal it. Ben's voice comes quieter. "And you're still doing it anyway." Preston's mouth twitches. "Someone has to." Sturgis calls from near a workbench, just a door laid over 2 sawhorses. "Preston, we need power if we're going to keep this place from getting wiped. Turrets, lights, water pump, all of it." Ben's head tilts. "You can build turrets from trash?" Sturgis looks at him like Ben just said the sky is up. "That's most of what we do." Ben exhales. The Omnitrix sits heavy against his wrist, a smooth piece of alien tech in a world held together with nails and hope. He glances out toward the road. He can still hear the minigun echo in his skull. The courser's static snap lingers like a memory of electricity. Somebody is hunting him, and he wants to go home. Badly. Ben's fingers drum once against the Omnitrix faceplate. Then he looks at the barricade again. Rough wood, splinters, human effort. Preston watches him. "You could leave," Preston says. "You don't owe us anything." Ben's lips part like a joke is ready, but it doesn't come out. His chest tightens. He hates that it tightens. He hates that the choice feels obvious. Ben nods toward the barricade. "Yeah, Ben says, "I could leave." He looks at the cul-de-sac, the half-rebuilt homes, the tired faces. "And then what? You guys get hit by raiders, mutants, whatever else is hiding in the woods, and I get to feel great about my travel plans?" Marcy scoffs. "You don't even know us." Ben flicks his gaze to her. "I know you're alive. That's enough." Sturgis scratches his head. "We could use the help." Ben points at him. "You're the guy who builds turrets out of garbage. I like you." Sturgis grins despite himself. Mama Murphy tilts her head, eyes half-lidded. "He's staying," she murmurs. "For now." Ben spins toward her. "Stop doing that." Mama Murphy smiles wider. Boy thinks he can argue with sight. Ben throws his hands up. "I'm surrounded by weird—" Preston's shoulders loosen a fraction, relief creeping in like warmth. "All right," Preston says. "Then we start small. Help settlements. Get the Minutemen back on their feet." Ben nods, jaw setting. "Cool," Ben says. "Just so we're clear, if another murder robot teleports at us, I'm filing a complaint with whoever runs this place." Sturgis blinks. "Who runs the Commonwealth?" Ben stares. "That," Ben says, "is an excellent question." The first warning is vibration, not footsteps. A low tremor in the air, like a bass note you feel in your knees before you hear it. Ben's sneakers are on steel, not Sanctuary's cracked road, not wooden planks. Steel, cold. The floor vibrates beneath his feet in a steady pulse, as if the building has a heartbeat made of machinery. Ben's eyes flick around. White pillars, perfect lighting. No dust, no rust, no wind, no smell of smoke. His lungs don't know what to do with air this clean. He swallows anyway. His throat feels too dry. Synth guards stand around the room, evenly spaced, rifles angled down, but ready. Their stillness is unnerving, too quiet, too patient. The courser stands directly in front of Ben, posture rigid, face calm, like violence is just another tool. Ben's hands are up, not surrender, not yet, just open. "Okay," Ben says, voice steady, trying not to let his heartbeat take over his mouth. "I have a question. Is there a sign-up sheet for kidnapping? Because I did not sign it." The courser doesn't blink. "You are now in institute custody." Ben tilts his head. That's not an answer. That's a threat with extra syllables. Behind the glass above, silhouettes move. A man steps forward, father, hands clasped behind his back, watching like Ben is a problem on a board. Beside him, Madison Lee stands tense, arms crossed, too tight. Ben looks up and points. Hey, balcony people. Love the minimalist decor. Very secret villain lab." Father's voice comes through a speaker, smooth and controlled. "Benjamin Tennyson." Ben freezes for half a heartbeat. The fact that father knows his name hits like a punch to the stomach. Ben's voice comes out sharper. "Okay, nope, don't love that. How do you know my name?" Father's tone doesn't change. "You made yourself easy to track." Ben's jaw tightens. "By saving people?" Madison Lee's eyes flicker. Brief, guilty, then lock back into a hard stare. Father continues. "The device you carry is extraordinary. You will cooperate, and no harm will come to you." Ben laughs once, humorless. "Wow, you guys practiced that line in a mirror." The courser steps closer. The floor vibration feels stronger now as the teleport platform hum intensifies, like the whole room is drawing breath. Ben takes a half step back. The courser's hand shoots out, grabbing Ben's wrist. The Omnitrix. Ben's skin prickles. His pulse surges. "Don't touch." The courser squeezes. Not crushing, but firm enough to lock the joint. Pain flashes up Ben's arm. Ben's thumb slams for the dial. The faceplate pops up. Green light flares, then sputters. The Omnitrix chirps, angry and glitchy, like a broken speaker. Ben's stomach drops again. "Seriously?" he hisses. "Now?" Father's voice comes again. Do not struggle. You'll only make this more unpleasant. Ben looks up at Father, eyes burning. You're right. This is already super pleasant. The courser twists Ben's wrist toward the platform. Ben plants his feet. The steel floor vibrates under his soles, steady and cold, fighting his balance. His brain races. If he transforms into something huge, he breaks the room, and somebody dies. If he goes intangible, they'll adapt. If he goes upgrade, Ben grits his teeth and forces the dial. Green light pulses again, weaker but present. Upgrade begins to form. Liquid metal crawls across Ben's skin, then snaps back. The Omnitrix spits a warning tone. Ben's breath catches. Sweat breaks out at the back of his neck, despite the cold air. Madison Lee's voice cuts in, sharp. The device is resisting. It's keyed to him. Father doesn't look away. Then we make him choose to cooperate. The courser yanks Ben forward. Ben's boots scrape steel. The vibration jolts up his legs, making his teeth clack. He twists, trying to slip the courser's grip. He drives an elbow backward into the courser's ribs. The courser doesn't flinch. It feels like hitting a wall. Ben's arm stings. The courser pushes Ben onto the circular platform. His heel hits the lip and nearly slips. He catches himself with one hand on the platform surface. Cold. Smooth. It vibrates harder than the floor. A concentrated hum. Ben's heart pounds. He looks around at the synth guards, their rifles now angled higher. Ben lifts his chin toward Father, voice tight. You're making a big mistake. Father's reply is calm. We'll see. The courser tightens its grip on Ben's wrist. Ben's thumb scrapes the Omnitrix dial again. Frantic. Green flicker. No lock. Ben's chest tightens with a sudden sour panic. Not fear of death. Fear of being contained. Fear of being treated like property. Ben's voice drops low. I'm not your experiment. The courser activates the platform. The vibration spikes. The air changes density in an instant, pressure squeezing Ben's ears. Static prickles across his skin. Light flares white around the platform edge. Ben's stomach lurches like the floor drops out. He hears Father's voice one last time, distant through the hum. Welcome to the Institute. Ben's teeth grit. His fist clenches. His other hand clamps over the Omnitrix faceplate like he can physically force it to behave. And then the world folds. Hard. Cold. Bright. The steel beneath his feet vanishes. And Ben is dragged into the clean white belly of something that thinks it owns him. The air tastes like it's been used too many times. Ben pulls in a breath, and it hits the back of his throat. Dry. Thin. Sterile. There's a faint ozone edge to it, like someone scrubbed lightning and bottled it. His skin doesn't like the cleanliness. It feels exposed. Synths flank him, rifles held at identical angles. Their boots make almost no sound on the white floor. The quiet is surgical. Ben rolls his shoulders once, trying to shake off the feeling of being boxed in. The Omnitrix sits cold on his wrist, faceplate down, humming so softly it's almost inside his bones. A door slides open, with a hush. The reactor hall spreads out, bright, symmetrical, too perfect to be real. A tall column of machinery behind glass pulses with contained power. Light flickers in neat cycles. At the far side, Father stands with hands clasped behind his back, posture relaxed, like he's hosting a museum tour. Madison Lee is there too, but she's not relaxed. Her jaw is tight. Her eyes flick to Ben, then away, like she doesn't want to be seen caring. Father's gaze lands on Ben's wrist. Benjamin, Father says. Ben stops walking. The synth behind him places a hand on his shoulder, gentle pressure that isn't gentle in meaning. Ben keeps his eyes on Father. If you call me subject, I'm going to start screaming on principle. Father's expression barely shifts. You have a sense of humor. Ben lifts his wrist slightly. I have a lot of things. You have a kidnapping hobby. Madison Lee's lips press into a line. Father steps forward one pace. His shoes click softly. The sound feels out of place in a room built to swallow noise. You're in the Institute, Father says, the last true refuge of human progress. Ben looks around at the spotless white and the armed synths. Uh-huh, Ben says. Love what you've done with the place. Very science fair, but with assault rifles. Father doesn't bite. You don't understand the surface. You don't understand what it takes to preserve civilization. Ben's laugh is small and sharp. The surface seems to understand you just fine. You're the creepy basement people who replace folks with robots. A flicker, annoyance maybe, crosses Father's eyes. Madison Lee shifts her weight, the smallest movement, like she wants to step in, but doesn't know how far she's allowed. Father keeps his voice even. We build, we plan, we correct mistakes. Ben's stomach tightens. He feels heat rise behind his sternum, anger threatening to become reckless. He forces his voice back into that bright Ben tone, because if he lets the anger drive, somebody loses a limb. Okay, Ben says, nodding at the reactor. Here's my plan. You unkidnap me. I go back up. I keep people from getting eaten by giant lizards. Everybody wins. Father's eyes return to the Omnitrix. That device rewrites you. It could rewrite humanity. Ben's fingers curl unconsciously. The Omnitrix hum deepens by a hair, like it hears itself being talked about. Ben's voice flattens. No. Father tilts his head. No? Ben takes one step forward until the synth hand on his shoulder tightens. The pressure bites. Ben looks down at the synth hand, then back to Father. No. Ben repeats. You don't get to rewrite humanity like it's a homework assignment. Father's tone remains calm, which makes it worse. Why not? The old world failed. The surface is proof. Ben's mouth opens, then closes. For a second he sees Concord again. Sandbags, tired eyes, people trying to live inside broken walls. He points at Father. You think the lesson is control harder. Father's eyebrows lift slightly. Is it not? Ben's chest rises with a slow inhale. The sterile air scratches his throat. Ozone lingers. The lesson, Ben says, is that people need help, not puppets. Madison Lee finally speaks, voice tight. He's right about one thing. You can't just take what you want because it's useful. Father doesn't look at her. Madison, I didn't ask for your ethics lecture. Madison Lee's hands clench. You asked me to read the data. The data says his device is keyed to him. It's part of him. Ben points at her. Thank you. Somebody gets it. Father's gaze shifts to Madison Lee for the first time. It's not angry. It's worse. Dismissive. He's a variable, Father says. We will study the variable. Ben's pulse jumps. His stomach turns. He feels his heartbeat in his wrist under the Omnitrix, like the device is listening. Ben's voice turns quieter, sharper. I'm not a variable. I'm not salvage. I'm a person. Father steps closer, stopping at the edge of a white line on the floor, like the line matters. You are a phenomenon, Father says, and you're scared. Ben's laugh comes out wrong. Scared? Buddy, I've been stabbed by aliens in space. Father's eyes remain fixed. Then why are your hands shaking? Ben freezes. He looks down. His fingers are trembling, tiny, involuntary. Not fear of pain, fear of being trapped. Ben forces his hands into fists until the shaking is hidden. Congratulations, Ben says, voice snapping back into sarcasm as armor. You found my one weakness, being kidnapped by people who think they're doing me a favor. A synth steps forward. The coarser, Same flat stare, same stillness, moves like it owns the space. Father's voice drops by a fraction. Cooperate, and you will be treated well. Resist, and will be forced to take precautions. Ben's eyes narrow. Precautions like what? Brainwashing? Dissection? Oops, we accidentally turned you into a toaster? Madison Lee's face tightens. Father. Father lifts a hand. Enough. He looks at Ben like he's making a generous offer. Work with us, Father says. We can help you return home. We can stabilize your device. We can give you answers. Ben's throat tightens. Home. The word hits hard, warm, and painful. Then the cold logic returns. He's offering a leash. Ben lifts his wrist so Father can see it clearly. This, Ben says, tapping the Omnitrix with one finger, is not a bargaining chip. Father's eyes flick to the tap. Ben smiles without humor. And if you think you can take it, Ben adds, you should know that people way scarier than you have tried. Father's gaze stays steady. Then we'll be thorough. Ben's pulse spikes. The Omnitrix hum becomes a sharper buzz, irritated. Ben's thumb slides toward the dial. The synths around him tighten their stances all at once, like they share a nervous system. Madison Lee takes a small step forward, voice urgent. Don't escalate in here. If he transforms... Father's head turns slightly. Containment protocols are active. Ben's eyes flick to the reactor glass, to the cables, to the clean surfaces that would become shrapnel if he picked the wrong alien. He swallows. The sterile air burns. Ozone sits in the back of his nose. Ben looks at Father, then at Madison Lee, then at the courser. He keeps his thumb poised, but doesn't slam. Not yet. Okay, Ben says, voice controlled. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of here, right now. Father's eyes narrow a fraction. And if I refuse? Ben's grin returns, bright and dangerous. Then you're going to find out why kidnapping me was your worst idea today. The first alarm is a pulse of red light that turns Father's face into a hard mask. A second alarm follows, lower, deeper. Then the floor starts vibrating harder. Ben feels it immediately, not just under his shoes, but inside his ribs. A low nuclear hum rises in his chest like a second heartbeat trying to take over. A synth voice speaks from overhead speakers, perfectly calm. Containment anomaly detected. Lockdown initiated. White doors slam shut along the perimeter with heavy thuds. Ben's eyes widen. You have got to be kidding me, he mutters. The courser moves. Fast. It lunges for Ben's wrist again. Ben twists away and finally slams the Omnitrix dial down. Green light explodes, then stutters. The Omnitrix chirps, angry, glitching like it's arguing with itself. Ben's breath catches. Not now. The courser's fingers clamp down on Ben's forearm. Pain spikes. The nuclear hum rises higher, pressing against Ben's sternum like something heavy leaning on him. Madison Lee shouts over the alarms. Father, the reactor's spiking. Father's voice stays calm. Containment will hold. Ben snaps his head toward the glass reactor column. The light inside it flickers irregularly now, no longer neat cycles, but frantic bursts. Ben points at it. That thing does not look like it's holding. The courser yanks Ben toward a side door. Ben's heel slips on the now vibrating steel floor. He catches himself and snarls, "Stop treating me like luggage." He forces the Omnitrix dial again, hard, like he's demanding compliance. Green light surges, stronger this time. Atomix forms in a rush, dense, heavy, power-packed. The air around him warps with heat, but the hum in his chest is louder than the alarms now, a clean, terrifying pressure. Synth rifles rise in unison. Father's eyes widen a fraction. Only a fraction. Ben's voice comes out deeper, edged with contained fury. "Everybody," Atomic says, "back up." The courser doesn't. It drives forward like it's been programmed to ignore fear. Atomic lifts one hand and the courser stops, not frozen by ice, not thrown by force, just held in place by a pressure field that makes its armor creak. Ben's breathing is slow and controlled, but his body wants to surge. The reactor hum spikes again, louder, pushing against Atomic's chest like a wave. Madison Lee's voice cuts through. "The containment glass is failing." Ben's eyes snap to the glass. A hairline crack crawls along it. A white-hot line of light leaks through the seam. Ben's gut twists. If that breaches, it doesn't matter who's right. Everyone dies down here. Ben looks at Father. "You did this," Ben says, voice tight. Father doesn't blink. "You escalated." Ben laughs once, bitter. "You kidnapped me in a nuclear basement, and you're calling me the escalation." The crack spreads. The hum turns into a throbbing pressure that makes Atomic's teeth ache. Ben turns away from Father and faces the reactor. He lifts both hands. His palms glow, not a blast, not an attack. A containment weave. He can feel it like a tension net forming between his fingers. Invisible lines of force that want to snap if he overpulls. Sweat beads on Ben's forehead, despite the cold air. It runs down his temple, tickling, annoying, human. Atomic's voice drops into focus. "All right," he mutters. "We do this the careful way." The glass crack widens. A flare of white-hot energy surges toward the breach. Ben's containment field catches it. The impact hits his body like a punch from the inside. The low nuclear hum in his chest becomes heavier, pressing down, making his ribs feel too small. Ben grunts, shoulders tensing. His knees bend slightly under the load. Madison Lee's eyes go wide. He's holding it. Father's head tilts, studying, calculating. Atomic's hands tremble, not from fear, from effort. Ben's stomach tightens, and he tastes bile he forces down. He pushes the containment weave tighter, wrapping the reactor column like a second skin. The light stops leaking. The crack doesn't vanish, but it stops spreading. Ben exhales through clenched teeth. "Okay," he says, voice strained. "Next time someone tries to kidnap me, I'm adding nuclear meltdown to the list of reasons not to." The courser strains against the pressure field. Its servos whine. Ben flicks his gaze at it. "Oh my gosh, can you not right now?" He shifts one hand, maintaining reactor containment with the other. The balancing act is brutal. His shoulder muscles burn. His lungs pull too shallow. He tightens the pressure field around the courser, just enough to drop it to one knee. Metal groans. Ben doesn't crush. He can't afford the distraction, and he refuses the line anyway. The reactor hum steadies slightly, still heavy in his chest, but less chaotic. Overhead, the alarm voice repeats. "Containment stabilized. Warning. Structural integrity compromised." Ben's hands stay up. He doesn't let go. He looks over his shoulder at Father, eyes blazing. "I could blow this whole place apart," Ben says. "You know that, right?" Father's voice is quiet. "Yes." Ben's jaw clenches. "But I'm not going to," Ben says, voice hard, "because there are people here who didn't choose your insanity." Madison Lee flinches like the words hit her too. Ben keeps holding the reactor. His arms shake. The hum presses into his chest like a weight, and his heartbeat fights to keep rhythm. Father watches, still calm, and that calm is suddenly smaller. Not gone, smaller. Ben's voice drops, almost a growl. "I protect people, even when they're being idiots." He turns his head slightly toward Madison Lee. "You, scientist lady, how do I shut this down safely?" Madison Lee blinks, then steps forward, hands flying to a console. "If you can keep that field stable for 30 seconds, I can reroute the overload to the auxiliary sinks. Ben's laugh is strained. 30 seconds? Sure. That's like 3 years in holding a reactor time. Madison Lee starts typing fast. Father's gaze flicks to the console, then back to Ben. For the first time, Father's voice carries something like caution. Benjamin, if you fail... Ben cuts him off without looking. Then you're all dead, Ben says. Yeah, I got it. The console hum changes pitch. Madison Lee calls out, now, keep it steady, steady. Ben tightens the containment weave, jaw clenched so hard his cheeks ache. The hum in his chest surges again, then slowly eases as power drains into sinks. The reactor light dims by a notch. Then another. The crack remains, but the pressure stops trying to punch through. Madison Lee exhales sharply. Overload diverted. Ben holds for a beat longer, just in case. Then he lowers his hands slowly. Atomix's glow softens. Ben's legs tremble. He swallows hard, throat raw from sterile air and adrenaline. He turns toward Father. Ben's voice is calm again. But it's the calm that comes after you've stared at a cliff edge. Still think I'm your variable? Ben asks. Father meets his gaze. The alarms quiet down to a low warning tone. The reactor hall is suddenly too still. Father's answer is measured. I think, Father says, you're more complicated than I expected. Ben gives him a tired, sarcastic smile. Wow, Ben says. High praise from the kidnapping club. The first footstep makes the pavement jump. Ben feels it through the soles of his shoes before he fully understands the sound. Thunderous mechanical footsteps that roll along the cracked waterfront road and shake loose pebbles into the harbor. He's on the surface again. Air that isn't scrubbed. Wind that bites and carries salt and rust. It fills his lungs with something real and filthy. He coughs once, hard. The Omnitrix is warm against his wrist, like it's been running hot. Behind him, in the distance, a white flare of Institute teleport light fades. He got out. Barely. He doesn't look back. Not because he's brave, because if he looks back, he might go back in out of sheer anger. Another footstep. The street trembles. Ben turns toward the sound. The horizon over the water is broken by metal. Huge metal. A towering figure advances along the waterfront like it owns the planet. Liberty Prime. Its head turns, scanning. Its eyes glow with cold purpose. Every step makes the world flinch. Ben's mouth opens. You have got to be kidding me. Above, the shadow of the Pridwin cuts across the road, blotting out the weak daylight. Vertibirds buzz around it like angry insects, rotors chopping the wind. On a raised platform near the airport approach, Brotherhood troops stand in formation. Power armor, laser rifles, banners snapping. At the front stands Arthur Maxson, coat collar high, posture rigid, eyes fixed on the shoreline where Ben stands. Beside him, Proctor Ingram in her power armor frame, stance stable, arms crossed. Lancer Captain Kells with a radio in hand, barking commands into the wind. Proctor Tegan is there too, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, jaw tense. Paladin Dance stands slightly forward, helmet on now, rifle held at the ready. Liberty Prime's voice booms, filtered and absolute. Foreign threat detected. Ben flinches, even though he wants to pretend he didn't. The sound vibrates in his ribs. Maxson's voice carries over loudspeakers, sharp and controlled. Target identified as a high-risk technological anomaly. All units hold. Prime is authorized. Ben stares up at the giant machine. He spreads his hands toward it like he's addressing a particularly stupid problem. Hi, Ben says loudly to nobody in particular. I'm Ben. I'm not a foreign threat. I'm a teenager with a watch and really bad luck. Another step. The pavement cracks further, spidering under Prime's weight. Ben's pulse kicks up. Dance's helmet turns toward Ben. For a second, Ben imagines the man inside is remembering the rooftop, remembering Ben choosing not to hurt anyone. Then Dance's voice comes through his helmet speaker, flat but not gleeful. "Stand down. Do not activate the device." Ben laughs, sharp. "Wow, you guys really love telling me to stand down." Maxson raises a hand slightly, a commander's micro-movement that pulls the entire line tighter. "We've seen what uncontrolled technology does," Maxson calls out. "Your device is a weapon. It will be secured." Ben's jaw tightens. He looks at Prime's massive hands, at the missiles mounted, at the way it walks like the world should apologize for being in the way. "You built that," Ben says, voice rising. "You built a walking war machine, and you're calling my watch the problem?" Prime takes another step. The thunderous mechanical footfall slams into Ben's stomach like a drumbeat. A gust of wind off the water whips Ben's jacket. The number 10 flashes. Ben lifts his wrist. The Omnitrix faceplate pops up with a familiar click. Brotherhood rifles tilt up. Vertibirds shift position. Maxson's voice hardens. "Do not." Ben's eyes stay on Prime. He breathes in salt and rust. He feels grit against his teeth. He tastes the Commonwealth like a warning. He doesn't slam the dial yet. He speaks first, voice steady, sarcastic edge, sharpened into something serious. "You want to know what the difference is?" Ben calls. "My device lets me be what I need to save people." He points at Liberty Prime. "That thing is what you need to feel in control." Prime's head tilts, scanning. "Communist aggression detected." Ben squints. "Did it just call me a communist? I don't even know what your politics are." Tegan mutters to Kells, barely audible. "This is insane." Kells snaps back. "Orders." Ingram's gaze stays fixed on Ben's wrist. Her voice is low, meant for Maxson. "If that kid transforms, Prime's targeting matrix may not adapt fast enough." Maxson's jaw tightens. "Then he won't transform." Ben's thumb hovers over the dial. His heart pounds. His brain runs through options in a flash: speed, intangibility, armor, size. And the civilians. Always the civilians. Because Prime isn't aiming at Ben as a person. It's aiming at a category. Ben exhales slowly. "Okay," Ben mutters to himself. "New rule. No arguing with giant robots." He looks up at Dance one last time. "Hey, Dance," Ben calls. "Quick question. Do you guys ever solve problems without bringing a skyscraper with legs?" Dance doesn't answer. Prime takes another step. The pavement shakes hard enough that a chunk of broken asphalt flips onto its edge and falls over. Ben finally slams the dial. Green light erupts against the harbor wind. And the Commonwealth is about to learn what hero looks like when a war machine tries to decide who deserves to exist. Green light detonates around Ben's wrist. For a split second, his bones feel like they're being rewritten by a freight train. The harbor wind hits him first. Salt, rust, grit. Then everything changes scale. His feet sink into cracked pavement as they grow, spreading weight across concrete that starts to complain in spiderweb fractures. His legs extend upward, like someone is pulling the world away from him. His spine lengthens, his shoulders broaden. The sky drops closer. Ben's breath deepens into something that isn't a breath anymore. It's a gust, a pressure wave. His chest expands, and the air around him moves. Way Big finishes forming and straightens, rising past broken streetlights, past the tops of wrecked buildings, past rooftop antennae that look like bent needles now. Wind roars at skyscraper height, loud enough to swallow the vertibird rotors for a moment. It's not a steady howl. It's chaotic, whipping around the tall frame of ruined towers and slamming into Waybig's faceplate like a living thing trying to push him back. Ben blinks, slow, huge, and the world below feels fragile. Liberty Prime's head tilts up. Its glowing eyes lock onto him. Threat level, extreme. Ben's voice comes out as thunder wrapped in sarcasm. Hi, I'm Ben, still not a communist. Below, Brotherhood troops flinch. Some take involuntary steps back as Way-Big's shadow sweeps over them like a moving eclipse. The harbor water chops harder under the displaced air. Waves slap the seawall in fast, nervous bursts. On the platform, Maxon's coat snaps violently in the wind. He holds his ground, but his posture tightens, spine rigid, chin high like pride can anchor him. Kells shouts into his radio, voice thin against the scale of sound now. All units, hold formation, hold! Tegan's mouth hangs open, eyes fixed upward. He looks like a guy watching a building decide to stand up and walk away. Proctor Ingram's head tilts, calculating, her voice low but urgent. Prime's targeting matrix is going to prioritize the larger threat. If it fires here. Dance's helmet turns slowly from Prime to Way-Big. His rifle remains raised, but his stance looks uncertain, like the rules he lives by just got punched in the gut. Prime takes a step forward. The pavement shudders. The shock travels along the waterfront like a quake. Way-Big turns his head, scanning fast. The Prydwen looms above and behind Prime, huge and heavy in the sky, with vertibirds shifting around it like guard dogs. Ben's stomach tightens, not because he's afraid of Prime, but because he's suddenly doing the math on collateral at this size. If Prime launches missiles or throws its weight wrong, it's not just Ben who gets hurt. It's everyone. Ben lowers one massive hand toward the Brotherhood line, palm open. His fingers create wind eddies that kick up dust and grit in spirals. "Hey!" Ben booms, voice rolling through the waterfront. "Everybody on the ground! Move back! You, Maxon, especially you! I do not want to step on your ego by accident." Maxon's answer comes through loudspeakers, crisp and defiant. "You will stand down." Way-Big's head tilts. "Buddy," Ben says, "I'm standing up. This is my maximum standing." Prime's shoulder compartments shift. Mechanical clicks cascade. Missile pods unlock with a heavy metallic clank that makes the air feel tense. Ben's eyes narrow. "Oh, come on." Way-Big plants his feet wider, careful, distributing weight. Concrete cracks further, but doesn't collapse. He keeps his knees slightly bent, ready to move without turning the ground into rubble. Prime's voice booms. "Democracy is non-negotiable." Ben exhales hard enough to make the harbor water ripple outward. "Cool," Ben says. "My turn. People not dying is non-negotiable." Prime raises an arm. Ben's hand lifts, ready. Not to smash, not to break, but to intercept. The wind at this height roars louder, whipping around Way-Big's shoulders and tearing through broken windows in the nearby towers with a drawn-out wail. Ben braces. Prime fires. The missiles leave Prime's pods with a brutal cough, hot exhaust, and a tearing scream. Way-Big moves. Not fast like XLR-8. Not slick like Big Chill. Fast like a skyscraper deciding it has to be. Ben swings his arm in a wide, precise arc, meeting the missiles mid-flight. His palm doesn't smack them like toys. He guides them, changing their angle with controlled force and timing, letting their own thrust carry them away. The nearest missile clips the edge of his hand. Heat bites across his palm. The impact jolts up his arm like a hammer strike. Ben grunts. Rude. He pushes the missile trajectory down and out, toward open water. The missile streaks over the seawall and slams into the harbor with a white flash. A beat later, the explosion hits. A shockwave rattles glass for miles. Broken windows in nearby buildings shudder and burst. Remaining panes tremble in their frames like they're trying to escape. Dust drifts from cracked masonry in thin sheets. The water erupts upward in a tower of spray, then collapses back down in churning foam. Brotherhood troops duck instinctively. Some stumble. A vertibird wobbles in the disturbed air. Maxson doesn't move. His jaw is clenched so tight it looks painful. Prime fires again. 2 missiles this time, staggered. Way Big's other hand rises. Ben tracks them visually, reading their arcs, calculating where they would land if he misses. One is pointed toward the waterfront buildings, where people could still be hiding. The other is angled toward the Brotherhood platform itself. Ben's pulse spikes. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." Way Big lunges forward a step, careful, his foot landing on a patch of road without crushing it into a crater. The pavement still cracks, but it holds. He reaches, fingers splayed. One missile hits his palm. The explosion doesn't detonate fully. Ben clamps it, compressing force, fighting the trigger mechanism with brute containment. Heat surges against his hand. Smoke curls up around his fingers. His arm shakes. The second missile streaks past his wrist. Too close. Way Big snaps his head and fires a cosmic beam, not wide, not lethal, a narrow line that clips the missile's tail just enough to spin it off course. It spirals into the harbor and detonates in open water. Another shockwave punches outward, rattling what glass remains. Way Big exhales hard, smoke drifting past his faceplate. Below, Ingram's voice crackles through Maxson's comm line, urgent. "He's redirecting them. He's keeping the blasts off us." Kells barks, "Prime, retarget the—" Tegan blurts, half to himself, "He could have smashed Prime in half, and he's catching missiles." Dance's helmet tilts up, tracking Way Big's hands with something that looks like disbelief forced into discipline. Prime takes another step forward, raising its massive fist as if it can punch the concept of problem out of existence. Communism is the very definition of failure. Ben's voice booms back, exasperated. "Stop calling me that. I'm from Illinois." Prime swings. That fist could flatten a building. Way Big doesn't counterpunch. He sidesteps, shifting weight, letting the fist slam into the pier instead of the street. The pier explodes in splinters and concrete chunks. Debris sprays outward. Ben sees the debris path, sees the Brotherhood line, sees civilians in his mind, even if he can't see them physically. He reacts. Way Big extends an arm, sweeping debris out toward open water with a controlled gust and a quick beam that vaporizes the largest chunks mid-air before they can become shrapnel. The effort is surgical and exhausting. Ben can feel it in his shoulders. Prime's head rotates. Targeting lights flicker. It raises its arm again. Ben's patience snaps a notch. "Okay," Ben says, voice turning sharper. "You're not evil. You're just aggressively stupid." He reaches for Prime's missile pod housing with one hand. Prime tries to backstep. Way Big's grip clamps the housing, not crushing, just firm, and rips the entire missile module free with a screech of metal. Prime's arm jerks. Systems whine. Ben flings the missile module into the harbor, far enough that if it detonates, it won't take the shoreline with it. It hits water with a deep splash and sinks. Prime's voice glitches for half a second, then returns. "Primary weapon systems compromised." Maxson's amplified voice cuts through the chaos. "Prime, continue the mission." Ben looks down at Maxson, voice heavy with disbelief. "You're ordering a giant robot to keep attacking after it almost bombed your own people." Maxson's answer is pure steel. "That device of yours is a greater threat than any temporary loss. Way Big's head tilts slowly. Ben's tone turns cold under the sarcasm. "Yeah," Ben says, "that's the problem with you guys. You keep picking control over alive." Prime raises its other arm, attempting a heavy strike at Way Big's knee. Ben shifts back, then crouches, careful not to collapse the roadway, and grabs Prime by the forearm and shoulder, controlling the machine's balance. Servos scream under strain. Metal groans. Way Big pivots and plants. Prime on one knee, like forcing a tantruming giant to sit. Prime's fist punches the pavement once, cracking it. Ben holds Prime in that kneeling position, arms shaking with effort. "Stay," Ben growls. "Down." Prime's eyes flicker. It tries to rise. Ben doesn't crush it. He could. He refuses. Instead, Way Big moves his hand to Prime's head and clamps it gently. Gentle at this scale still means unstoppable, and tilts the face upward, so Prime has to look at him. Ben's voice lowers into a rumbling warning. "I'm not your enemy. I'm not your category. And I'm not going to let you turn this place into a graveyard because some guy in a coat can't handle being wrong." The Pridwin's shadow slides across them again. Below, glass rattles in surviving frames, still trembling from the shock waves. Dance's rifle dips a fraction. Ingram's voice is low. "Elder." He's restraining it. He's not killing anyone. Maxon's posture stays rigid. But his eyes track the harbor, the redirected blasts, the avoided casualties. He's watching the evidence and hating what it implies. Way Big keeps Prime pinned. Ben's breathing is heavy now, each inhale a gust. He looks down toward the waterfront buildings. A chunk of pier debris has collapsed part of a wall. Dust billows out. Movement. Someone inside, trapped. Ben's focus shifts instantly. Prime isn't the only problem. Ben's voice booms again, urgent. "People are pinned in that building." Maxon's reply is delayed, just a beat too long. Ben hears it anyway. That delay tells him everything. Way Big releases Prime just enough to keep it down, then turns his head toward the damaged building. "Fine," Ben mutters. "I'll do it myself." Green light begins to gather at his wrist again. Green light flashes. Way Big collapses into brightness, mass shrinking in a controlled rush until Ben is human again, for half a heartbeat. Knees bending, lungs dragging in air that suddenly feels huge around him. He doesn't get time to steady. He slams the dial again. Big chill unfurls, wings spreading with a soft snap. Cold spills into the space around him like a silent wave. The dust in the air changes behavior, slowing, settling in thin, drifting sheets as the temperature drops. Ben glides toward the collapsed building entrance, feet not quite touching the ground. Behind him, Liberty Prime's servos whine, recalibrating. The machine shifts, trying to stand again, damaged but stubborn. Brotherhood shouts blur in the distance. Ben ignores all of it. Inside the building lobby, the floor is cracked tile and rubble. A chandelier frame hangs at a crooked angle, swaying faintly. Dust coats everything like flour. A groan comes from deeper inside. Human. Close. Ben's wings fold slightly as he slips through the shattered entrance. A jagged slab of concrete hangs overhead, supported by rebar that's bent and screaming under strain. Ben hears tiny pops, material settling, threatening. He moves forward, slow enough to be careful, fast enough to matter. A trapped voice calls out, hoarse and panicked. "Help! Someone! Please!" Ben's breath fogs in the air. "I'm here," Ben calls back, voice echoing with Big Chill's hollow tone. "Try not to move too much. The building is doing the whole dying thing." A cough answers him. Ben glides around a collapsed stairwell. The concrete is fractured into plates, stacked wrong, ready to slide. Ice begins forming across cracked concrete where Big Chill's presence lingers, thin frost crawling along edges and seams, binding loose pieces together just enough to reduce shifting. Ben reaches the pocket, a section under a fallen beam where two civilians are pinned. One is a man in ragged clothes, face smeared with dust and blood, eyes wide with terror. The other is a woman clutching a child tight, her arms trembling so hard the kid's head bobs against her shoulder. The child's eyes lock onto Ben's glowing green symbol. The kid whispers, "Are you a ghost?" Ben's wings flex. "Kind of," Ben says. "I'm a ghost with a watch and terrible timing." The man tries to push up and immediately hisses in pain. His leg is pinned by a slab. Dust falls from the slab as he moves. Ben raises a hand. "Nope, don't do that. I like your leg where it is, attached." The woman's voice shakes. "The big robot, outside." "I know," Ben says, then glances upward at the groaning ceiling. "But right now, I care about this ceiling not becoming your hat." He phases. Big Chill's body slides through the slab, pinning the man's leg. His hand passes through concrete like smoke. He positions himself inside the slab, then solidifies slowly, applying pressure from within, lifting just enough to relieve weight without shifting the stack. The slab creaks. The rebar twitches. Ben's stomach tightens. He keeps his voice light anyway. "Okay, everybody stay calm," Ben says. "If you panic, I panic, and I'm the one with the alien biology. You don't want to see me panic." The man's teeth chatter. "You're cold." "Yeah," Ben says. "Occupational hazard." Ice forms in a thin line along a critical crack near the slab's edge, reinforcing it like a brace. Ben lifts another fraction. The man drags his leg free, biting back a scream. Ben points at him. "Good. Now scoot. Slow. Like you're trying not to annoy a very angry building." The woman shifts, trying to stand while holding the child. A distant, thunderous footstep shakes the lobby. Dust rains from the ceiling. The woman gasps. Ben's wings spread wider, and cold floods outward. Ice forms across cracked concrete in branching lines, locking loose fragments in place. It doesn't stop collapse forever, but it buys time. Ben looks back toward the entrance, hearing Prime's systems whining, hearing Brotherhood voices barking. He swears under his breath, then forces the words out in a calm tone. "Okay," Ben says. "Field trip time. Everybody follow me." The child clings tighter to the woman and whispers, "Are we going to die?" Ben glances at the kid. His voice softens. "Not on my watch." He immediately regrets the pun and rolls with it anyway. Which is, literally true. He phases through a fallen beam, guiding them around it. The woman hesitates, staring at the solid obstruction. Ben taps the beam with a claw. "Trust me. Walk where I walk." They follow, stepping through the gap he creates by phasing and solidifying at the right moments, like threading a needle through collapsing architecture. Another footstep outside. The lobby shudders. A chunk of ceiling breaks loose behind them and slams into the floor, exploding tile. The child whimpers. Ben keeps moving, faster now, gliding just above the ground and pulling the cold with him like a shield. At the doorway, sunlight and harbor wind hit them. The woman stumbles out, coughing hard. The man limps, face twisted with pain. Ben follows last. Outside, the world is chaos at giant scale. Liberty Prime is still partially kneeling, trying to rise, damaged weapon systems whining. Brotherhood lines are spread and tense. Maxon stands rigid, staring between Prime and Ben like his brain refuses to accept both realities. Dance steps forward half a pace, then stops when he sees the civilians. Ben gestures behind him with a wing. "Hey," Ben calls out, "maybe focus on evacuating people instead of arguing about my wrist accessory." Maxon's voice comes sharp. "You are escalating a military operation." Ben snaps back, voice bright with anger and sarcasm. "You mean the operation where your robot tried to bomb your own guys?" "Yeah, I really ruined the vibe." The child looks up at Prime, eyes huge. "Is it going to hurt us?" Ben's jaw tightens. He turns his head toward Prime, watching it strain to stand. Then he looks at the Omnitrix. His thumb hovers again. Ben exhales cold fog. "Okay," he mutters. "Round 2. Ice continues to form in thin threads across the cracked concrete behind him. The last traces of Big Chill's passage anchoring the collapsing building just long enough for the rescued civilians to get clear. Ben squares his shoulders. He's done saving one pocket. Now he has to stop a war machine without becoming one. The air on the command deck is thick with oil and metal. It clings to the back of Maxon's throat like a swallowed coin. Every breath tastes like engine guts and old war. The floor plates vibrate with the constant hum of the ship, a low mechanical pressure that never lets your body forget it's standing on something that could fall. Maxon doesn't sit. He stands at the hollow table, hands braced on its edge, knuckles pale. The green light paints his face in hard angles. His coat hangs perfectly, but the set of his shoulders is too rigid, like he's holding himself together by force. Lancer Captain Kells is at his right, radio still clipped in place, jaw tight. Proctor Ingram stands opposite, her frame humming faintly when she shifts weight. Proctor Tegan lingers near the doorway, arms crossed, eyes darting like he's waiting for the room to explode. Dance stands a step behind Maxon, helmet tucked under one arm, expression carved into discipline. A vent cycles. Warm air pushes out. It smells like hot grease. Maxon's voice is clipped. "Report." Kells answers immediately. "Liberty Prime sustained damage. Missile pod systems removed. Target remains at large." Maxon's eyes don't leave the hollow table. "Target." Tegan mutters under his breath, barely audible. "Kid has a name." Maxon's head turns a fraction, enough to make Tegan's mouth snap shut. Dance speaks, controlled. The individual demonstrated the ability to prevent collateral damage at extreme scale. Maxon's gaze flicks to Dance. "Sharp. Explain." Dance's throat works once. He's choosing words like they have teeth. "He redirected Prime's missiles into the harbor," Dance says. "He disabled weapon systems without lethal force. He entered a collapsing structure to extract civilians while Prime was still active." Kells' mouth tightens. That could have been misdirection. Dance doesn't look at Kells. It wasn't. Ingram shifts, servos giving a soft whine. "Elder, I watched his hands. He caught a live missile. He didn't detonate it over the shoreline. If he wanted bodies, we'd have been bodies." Maxon's fingers tighten on the table edge. Metal creaks faintly under his grip. Tegan exhales, then can't help himself. He saved people, including ours. Maxon's eyes flash. He's an uncontrolled piece of pre-war level technology in human hands. Dance's voice drops a notch. "He's not pre-war." That lands in the room like a dropped tool. The hum of the ship fills the gap. Oil and metal in every breath. Maxon stares at Dance, his expression hard. "You're certain?" Dance nods once. "Yes." Kells steps forward, half a pace. "Elder, even if his intentions are favorable, the device remains a threat. The Brotherhood cannot allow—" Maxon cuts in. "We don't allow anything." He says it like a law of physics. He straightens, coat shifting, and the smell of oil rises as the fabric brushes his armor straps. Maxon looks down at the hollow table display of the waterfront. Prime's path, Ben's position, civilian heat signatures. He watches the replay again. Silent. Ingram's voice is quieter, meant to be helpful. If we go after him again with Prime, we'll force escalation. Maxon's jaw tightens. He already escalated. Tegan blurts, frustration leaking through. He escalated by not killing us? Maxon's head snaps toward Tegan. The room goes still. Tegan swallows, forcing his voice into something steadier. Elder, we're supposed to protect people from dangerous tech. That kid used dangerous tech to protect people from us. Maxon's nostrils flare. He looks away. The hollow table hum becomes suddenly loud. Dance shifts, boots scraping slightly on metal plating. Elder, he says, careful. If he's truly a threat, he would have used lethal force when Prime targeted him. He didn't. Maxon's fingers flex. Once. Twice. For a moment, there's something in his face that isn't command. It's conflict. Then it hardens again. We secure the device, Maxon says, but we do it intelligently. No more spectacle. No more Prime unless necessary. Kells nods immediately. Understood. Ingram doesn't nod right away. She watches Maxon, eyes searching. Dance's voice is low. And the boy? Maxon looks at the hollow table like the answer is in the green light. The boy, Maxon says, will learn that intent doesn't excuse risk. Tegan shifts his weight, oil smell rising as he brushes the wall. Or maybe we learn something too. Maxon doesn't answer that. He turns away from the hollow table and walks toward the window slit that overlooks the Commonwealth, ruins under a dead sky. He stares out. His reflection in the glass is sharp and unmoving. Behind him, the ship hums, steady as obsession. Morning light lands on the bridge like a promise nobody trusts yet. It warms irradiated dust in slow waves. You can see it drifting in the sunlight, bright flecks floating above the rough wood and scrap metal. The air still tastes wrong, dry, sharp, but the warmth makes it feel less hostile, like the world is pretending it remembers how to be alive. Ben stands near the barricade, hands in his jacket pockets, trying to look casual while his brain refuses to stop running. He slept, barely. He can still feel the vibration of Liberty Prime in his bones like an echo that won't fade. His shoulders ache in places he didn't know could ache. Across the bridge, settlers gather in clusters. Some hold pipe rifles like comfort objects. Some just stare. A kid peeks from behind an adult's leg, eyes glued to Ben's wrist. Ben lifts 2 fingers in a tiny wave. The kid disappears behind the leg immediately. Ben sighs. Yeah, that tracks. Preston steps up onto a crate to address the crowd. His coat looks more like a flag than clothing in the morning light. Worn, patched, stubborn. He raises his voice. Listen up. We've got someone here who helped us in Concord, saved our people, took down threats most of us can't even stand in front of. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. A man calls out, suspicious. What is he? Another raider trick? Ben lifts his chin. If I was a raider trick, I'd be way more charming, and I'd ask for your stuff in a cooler way. A few laughs, nervous, surprised, break the tension. Preston points toward Ben. This is Ben. He chose to help. That means something. Ben feels the attention land on him like weight. He shifts his stance, boots scraping rough wood. A woman in a battered coat steps forward, eyes sharp. We heard about the robot by the water. Ben's mouth twists. Yeah, that happened. Another voice. You fought it? Ben glances at Preston, like please don't make me give a speech. Preston meets his eyes, like too late. Ben exhales and steps forward, palms up in a helpless gesture. Okay, Ben says, pitching his voice so it carries. I didn't fight it because I wanted to. I fought it because it was about to turn the waterfront into a crater. I'm not here to pick sides in your faction thing. I'm here to stop people from dying." He taps the Omnitrix lightly. The faceplate clicks faintly. "And yes, I can do weird stuff," Ben adds. "No, I'm not selling it, trading it, or letting anyone borrow it for research." A few settlers exchange looks. Someone mutters, "Sounds like a hero." Ben's chest tightens. He hates how good it feels and how dangerous that feeling is. Before he can respond, a figure steps out from behind a wrecked car at the edge of the cul-de-sac, like he's been there all morning. He's smiling. That alone is suspicious. Deacon lifts a hand in a casual wave. "Morning, neighbors." Half the rifles tilt toward him. Deacon holds both hands up. "Whoa, whoa, friendly, mostly." Ben narrows his eyes. "You have, I definitely wasn't invited energy." Deacon points at Ben like they're old friends. "And you have, fell out of the sky and made enemies with the Brotherhood in a day energy. Respect." Behind Deacon, two more shapes emerge. Desdemona steps into the light with controlled authority, posture straight, eyes fixed on Ben's wrist, like she's trying to decide whether it makes him human or not. Tinker Tom follows, jittery, goggles pushed up, clutching a jury-rigged device that looks like it might explode if someone breathes wrong. Tinker Tom whispers loudly, "Greenwatch kid, told you there'd be a Greenwatch kid." Ben points at him. "Okay, why does everyone here have a gimmick?" Desdemona speaks without raising her voice, and somehow it still cuts through the murmurs. "Ben Tennyson." Ben's stomach tightens. "How do you all keep learning my name like it's a hobby?" Deacon grins wider. "We're good at hobbies." Preston steps down from the crate, wary. "Railroad." Desdemona nods once. "Minutemen." The air shifts. Not wind, tension. Lines drawn without anyone moving. Ben lifts his hands between them like he's physically holding the drama apart. "Okay, hi. Cool. Love the secret club vibes, but I'm not doing faction politics before breakfast." Desdemona's eyes stay on him. "You fought Liberty Prime." Ben tilts his head. "It attacked me. I responded with, 'Not dying.'" Tinker Tom bounces on his heels, staring at the Omnitrix like it's a holy relic. "That thing's not just tech. That thing's like tech. Ben deadpans. "Excellent analysis." Desdemona's voice tightens. "The Institute will come for you." Ben's jaw sets. "Yeah, I met one of their teleport guys in a tunnel. Super rude." Deacon leans closer, dropping his voice like he's telling a secret. "Brotherhood will come for you too. They're not great with no." Ben looks between Preston's tired determination and Desdemona's hard focus. Morning light warms the dust around them, turning the air into a glowing haze. It makes the faces look softer than the world deserves. Ben feels the weight again. Symbol. Myth. Target. He forces a grin anyway. "Okay," Ben says. "Good news. I'm used to being hunted by people with terrible boundaries." He glances at the settlers behind Preston. "And I'm also used to protecting people who didn't ask to be in the middle." Preston nods, once. Slow. Desdemona studies Ben for a long beat, then nods as well. Less warm, more strategic. Tinker Tom whispers, thrilled. He said protecting. He said it. That's hero talk. Deacon spreads his arms, pleased. "See? Team building." Ben points at Deacon. "You stop talking." Deacon laughs. "No." Ben exhales, looking at the sunlit dust and the barricade and the faces that are already hoping too hard. His voice drops a notch, just for himself. "All right," Ben mutters. "Guess I'm not invisible anymore." Cold wind slides over rusted steel and makes it sing. Not music, just a thin, constant note that changes when it passes the jagged edges of a broken antenna. The The corrugated metal sheet bolted to the ledge vibrates faintly under the gusts. Every now and then, it taps the concrete with a dull clunk. Ben sits with his back against an HVAC unit that died a long time ago. The metal is cold through his jacket. He pulls his knees up and rests his arms on them, chin hovering over his forearms. Below, Boston is a field of dark shapes. Skeletal towers, streets like scars. Tiny distant fires flicker like someone trying to keep the world from going out completely. Ben's wrist aches. Not injured, tired. Like the Omnitrix has weight beyond metal. He flips the faceplate up with his thumb. The hologram wheel flickers, unstable for half a second, then steadies. Ben stares at it. "Okay," he whispers, "you and me are having a conversation later. Preferably one where you don't strand me in the worst field trip ever." The wind pushes grit across the rooftop. It rasps against the rusted unit near his shoulder. The texture is rough, flaking. Ben rubs his fingers together, feeling dust grind against skin. He tries to breathe slow. He tries to let his heart stop sprinting. His brain replays the day anyway. Claws on crystal, gunfire in tunnels, sterile lights, Prime's footsteps, civilians coughing in dust. Ben presses his tongue to the roof of his mouth. Metal taste again. Not as strong as when he arrived. Still there. He looks up at the sky. It's clearer here than it should be. Stars faint but present. No city glow to wash them out. Just darkness and distance. Ben lets out a small laugh that doesn't have much humor in it. "Gwen would hate this," he mutters. "Grandpa Max would... Actually, Grandpa Max would probably start fixing stuff." He closes the faceplate with a click. The sound is small in the wind. Ben leans his head back against the metal and closes his eyes for 2 beats. Then he opens them again. Because quiet never lasts. A faint flash on the horizon. Vertibird lights far away, cutting across the dark. Not close enough to matter yet. Close enough to remind him it will. Ben's jaw tightens. He drags a hand down his face and exhales. "Okay," he says to the night. "Let's review. 1. This world is allergic to happiness. 2. Everyone with a gun thinks they're right. 3. I'm apparently the new shiny thing everyone wants to grab." The wind gusts harder, making the antenna squeal. Ben smirks despite himself. "And 4, he adds, I really need a shower." He pushes himself to his feet. His knees pop slightly. He rolls his shoulders until the stiffness eases a fraction, then walks to the ledge and looks down at the ruins like he's measuring them. Cold wind bites at his cheeks. Rusted steel under his palms feels rough, gritty. Ben rests both hands on the ledge anyway. He looks out over the Commonwealth. He thinks about leaving. He thinks about the kid hiding behind a leg on the bridge. He thinks about the woman clutching her child in the collapsing building. He thinks about fathers saying, variable. He thinks about Maxon saying, risk. Ben's fingers curl on the ledge. He speaks quietly, not for anyone else. "I'm not built for ignoring people." He straightens and taps the Omnitrix once, just a tap, like reassurance. The device hums back, faint and unsettled. Ben snorts. "Yeah, okay, you too." He turns away from the ledge, ready to move. Then he glances back one last time at the city, dark, broken, stubborn. Ben's mouth lifts into a grin that finally looks like him again. "Guess Earth still needs saving," he says. He pauses, then adds, "because he can't help it. And apparently, I'm the guy who drew the short straw." The wind continues over rusted steel. The night stays open. And Ben steps off the rooftop into it like tomorrow is already trying to start a fight.